Sorry. Why y'all didn't remind me? Anyway, um, today we'll be discussing the introduction to law and how our laws work. Um, Again, hopefully impressing upon you that you do not want to get involved in this system. The deck will be stacked against you. That's pretty much guaranteed. Okay. Now, for those people out there who think the law is boring, I'd like to, and in the classroom, I would pass this around for y'all to see it. But what I have in my hand here is a nursing bulletin. This is sent out by twice a year. Excuse me, what is it? It is quarterly. So it's sent out 4 times a year. And one of the important parts about this is, I don't know if y'all can read that, but it says notice of disciplinary action. These are people who have had their licenses revoked or suspended during that quarter that it was produced. Now, I don't know if y'all can, I know y'all can't read that writing, but you see how many people's names, and this is double column, 1, 2 columns, of all these people in Texas who've had their licenses revoked or suspended. Now, it's important that they publish this every quarter because this is something the manager might be looking at to make sure that nobody that works for me has had their license revoked and hasn't told me. Or if I'm looking to hire somebody, I might look and see if your name appears in here, if we're in Texas. Now, that's a lot of names, isn't it? You see all those and how small that writing is? All these people had their licenses revoked, probably because they didn't follow whatever laws are out there. Now, you ready for this? Can you see that? 2 more pages. So this is not single page. 1, 2, 3 pages of these people.
And that's only in Texas, sir?
Just in Texas.
Oh, wow.
You see how small that writing is? There are at least a couple hundred names in here for 1 quarter in 1 state. So what do you think the country looks like? And that's just, by the way, nurses. This is my wife's bulletin. If you add in medical assistants, PCTs, CNAs, occupational therapists, physical therapists, respiratory therapists, all of these different disciplines, if you add in all of them, how many people are out there losing their licenses every quarter? Thousands of people. And most times it's something silly, something dumb. Like you're working home health and you don't get your documentation signed off within 24 hours. Something simple like that. And boom, you've lost your license. You're a PA out there and the doctor didn't sign off or didn't review your cases for the day within 24 hours like they're supposed to. And you didn't ensure somebody was reviewing your cases. Boom, there goes your license. So it is easy to lose a license out there in the world, y'all. And it can be something that you did or something somebody else did. Like the scenario I just used. If you're a physician assistant and you see patients, your documentation must be reviewed by a medical doctor and signed off by the end of that day. And if that's not happening, then you might say, well, the doctor wasn't doing it. It's your job to ensure that it gets done. And that if it's not getting done, you need to report that doctor. See, ain't no such thing as snitch in healthcare, y'all. When you're talking about maintaining your own license, you better sign my shit off. And if you don't, I'm calling the people on your ass because I'm not losing my license. So it can sometimes be the result of something somebody else did. It can be like that scenario I mentioned yesterday, or maybe it was day before yesterday, I don't remember. But where the guy was in the subway Talking about he wasn't going to hire somebody because they had scoliosis. Could be something stupid like that because you just don't know. So you need to know the laws that govern you and your practice, and you need to know how the law works. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, how the law works. So you've got your presentation of, or your copy of, the Introduction to Law and Ethics. I'll leave that there just now. So we're going to start today talking about where laws come from. Why is, or what makes something a law? Right? First of all, we're going to start, and that's why we're going to start talking with the United States Constitution today, the primary source of law out there. And we call the Constitution the supreme law, and we'll be mentioning why that is here in a minute. We'll also be talking a little bit about criminal laws, what makes something criminal in our country, what makes murder a crime. I know y'all have seen that movie, or some of y'all have seen that movie, what is it, where, I haven't watched it, but where they say murder is not a crime or something, or for 24 hours, you can do anything you want. I can't remember what the movie's called, but.
Purge.
What is it? The Purge?
The Purge.
Yeah. So what is it that makes these things criminal? Statutory law and what that actually means. Remember, understand that most people don't know what that actually means. Statutory law. Civil law, which is concerning people. This is where we get to sue people. And then administrative laws like OSHA, HIPAA, administrative agencies that have been given the power to pass law. Usually your income tax is due by April 15th. You have to have it mailed in by April 15th. That's a administrative law issued by the IRS. Now you can't go to jail for administrative law, for violating administrative law, but they'll start levying fines against you, like OSHA, $10,000 a day until you get this corrected. So if you have an OSHA violation, you can't go to jail for that unless they deem it criminal. So those are the sources of law for us, starting with the Constitution, criminal laws, statutory laws, civil laws, and administrative laws. And we'll start with the Constitution, the supreme source of law. It is that because no law can be passed that conflicts with the Constitution. You've heard people refer to something being unconstitutional, meaning that this law they're trying to pass violates something that the Constitution says, or we interpret it that way. For example, there is nothing in the Constitution about abortion. So somebody has to look at that thing specifically and say, is stopping a person from doing that, is that violating anything in the Constitution? The right to the freedom of speech or to pursuit of happiness or whatever. Is there something that's being violated if we pass that law? And if they deem that it is, it will be declared unconstitutional. Like they just recently, probably the latest one that I can remember is the separation of families at the border. The Supreme Court finally said that that is unconstitutional. Another one, fairly, not really recent, but in recent history, was that the Supreme Court deemed that it's unconstitutional to ask somebody if they are an American citizen or not. Okay. So, or to stop people, and just on that basis, they decided that the stop and frisk laws in California were unconstitutional. And they're now looking at, is this no-knock warrant, is that constitutional? Guys, that's got to be the dumbest question anybody's ever asked. You see, because if I'm sitting in my house and somebody busts my door down without saying anything, I'm popping a cap in your ass. I don't care what it says on your clothes. Anybody can buy a damn vest that says police on it. And if I was after you and really wanted to get you, that's probably what I'd do. Go out and buy me one of those vests that say police, knock on your door, and shoot you when you open it. You come busting in my house, you're going to get shot. So this no-knock warrant, is it constitutional? So anyway, and some states have stopped doing it just because. They don't recognize it. Just because something might be constitutional doesn't mean that it's necessarily right. It's not the right thing to do. All right, so no law can be passed that conflicts with the Constitution. Now, what the Constitution actually does is establish our government. See, all these amendments that you know about, the right to privacy or the right against self-incrimination, the right of freedom of speech, see, those were not part of the Constitution. The Constitution was simply put together to tell us how to organize the government. And a little bit later, we'll talk about where the amendments came from, but they weren't part of the original Constitution. The preamble was also not part of the original Constitution. And that's why it appears in that one page that I sent y'all together, the preamble plus the 10 amendments. They were added to the Constitution after it was originally written. And later on, we'll talk about why they were added. But what does the Constitution do? It sets up the government. It gives us requirements, for example, what a president is. How do we elect somebody to president? Okay. Things like right now, they're trying to get an extension to the election date. Not going to happen. The Constitution tells us what the election date will be. And it actually says in there, November, whatever. So to try and extend that, they're going to have to get some type of constitutional amendment in order to extend the election date past whatever it is. So it tells us how the government is organized as far as power. And it gives us these 3 branches of government. Does anybody know why it's important that we have 3 branches of government? There's a term that y'all have heard before. You probably may not be thinking about it right now. But why should we have 3 branches of government? Nobody? Really? Really?
To give 3 different opinions and for the middle vote. Basically, one side might say this, the other side might say this, and the middle one basically would decide what the action would be.
Okay. All right.
I missed the question. I stepped away for a minute. Can you repeat the question?
Why do we need to have 3 branches of government?
One to protect the government, one to protect the people, one to protect the constitutional rights.
Okay. Anybody else?
3 different opinions, sir?
3 different opinions. Okay. Okay. Have you ever heard the term checks and balances? Have you ever heard that before? What does it mean? It means that if this branch starts acting a fool, these 2 branches get together and shut his ass down. That's checks and balances. When Donald Trump say, I'm going to do this, they say, no, you're not. You lost your damn mind. You can't do that. No one branch of government can just run wild. Congress can't just start passing stupid ass laws like you can't spit on the sidewalk on Sunday. The president can say, have you lost your damn mind? The judicial branch can say, no, that's unconstitutional. Just like when Trump says, I'm going to separate families at the border. The judicial branch says, no, you're not. These people over here say, well, we're going to pass a law that says whatever. And the president says, no, you're not. That's checks and balances. When the president says, well, I'm going to build a border wall, Congress says, no, you're not, because we're not going to give you the money for it. And then the president says, well, I will take the money away from the military. and use that money to build it. And then Congress says, no, you're not. Because you've got to come to Congress and prove that there's an emergency on the border before you're able to take that money away. All of that comes from our Constitution, giving these different branches the power to shut down another branch if they are acting out of line. Congress just tried to do what? Or what did they just do? They just impeached the president for whatever. So that's part of checks and balances. The legislature saying, no, you can't do that. Or bad boy for doing that. That's an impeachment. All right, so that's checks and balances, okay? One branch cannot just run crazy. The other two branches have the power to slow them down or shut them down if they're doing something inappropriate. Checks and balances. No one branch can just take power. And that's why the Constitution was written the way that it is. So our ancestors were some pretty smart people. Now, back in the day, or we might think of, when we think of the Constitution, we think of all these old men sitting around a room, writing and signing a piece of paper. But the truth of the matter is, they were not old men. They wore white wigs back then. So every time you see those pictures, they're all wearing that white legislature wig. It's not white hair. These are not old men. Alexander Hamilton was 21 years old. Matter of fact, he was 19 years old when he wrote the Federalist Papers. These are a group of essays, 55 different essays that were written and sent out to the people to convince them to vote in favor of a federalist government, which is what we have today, federal government. And he was 19 years old and writing papers to convince people that this was the best type of government to have. James Madison was 24, I think he was. So these were not old men. Some of these people were younger than you. And they're determining what type of government we're going to set up in this new country. So anyway, that's let's talk a little bit about each branch. The three branches are the legislative, executive, and judicial branch. The legislative branch, that's what we call Congress. Congress includes the Senate and the House of Representatives. The executive branch is the president, the vice president, and the cabinet, and all that will be on the next slides as well. And then the judicial branch includes all of our different courts, from the Supreme Court all the way down to the district courts. All right, so the executive branch, what does it do? Executive branch is responsible for making our laws. To make a law, a federal law that affects everybody in the United States, the president has to sign that off. Now, as we go down to lower levels, like the states, it's the governor that signs it off. So this is referring to federal laws. Those laws that affect everybody in the United States have to be signed by the president. So the president makes laws. The executive branch includes the president, the vice president, and the cabinet members. Now, some things about the president. First of all, the president has to be 35 years old. Now, imagine how Alexander Hamilton felt about that. He was 21, and they were telling him, you're not mature enough to be president. After he's the one that convinced most people in the colonies at that time to vote in favor of a federalist government, but he wasn't old enough to be president. So you have to be 35 years old, and you have to be born a U.S. citizen. Now, this is where your president just doesn't even understand his own damn Constitution. And there are people out there that listen to him. He knows he's lying, or else he's the stupidest person on the planet. You're president of the United States, and you don't know what it takes to be president, with the requirements to be president of the United States. How dumb is that? To say, I don't know what requirements you have to fulfill to be president of the United States, but I am the president of the United States. So he's a lion, or he's the dumbest person on the planet. What does it take? You have to be born a U.S. citizen. It didn't say born in the United States. It says born a U.S. citizen. Obama was born in Hawaii. Hawaii wasn't a state at that time. So Trump's saying he's not qualified, or he doesn't fit the requirements to be president because he wasn't born in the United States. And I've sat right back in my chair, like, what? Man, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You have to be born a U.S. citizen. What does that mean? Either your parents were U.S. citizens or you were born on U.S. soil. Anybody born in the United States is a U.S. citizen automatically. So it doesn't matter what this lady's parents were. If she was born in this country, she's eligible to be president, fitting that criteria. Obama was born outside the United States, but both his parents were U.S. citizens. That's like, for example, if a military family goes to Germany and their kid is born while they're in Germany, the kid is still a U.S. citizen because at least one of his parents was a U.S. citizen. But he's also a German citizen because he was born on German soil. So children that are born to military families overseas, or anybody overseas, they'll have dual citizenship and be a citizen of the United States and a citizen of Germany. So you have to be 35 years old. You have to be born a U.S. citizen. That's why Arnold Schwarzenegger wouldn't be able to be president of the United States. He wasn't born here, or his parents weren't citizens when he was born. President is limited to 4-year terms, but can say limited to 2 terms. So 8 years total. And they have to run every 4 years. And that's good for us, guys. No matter what else, no matter what dumb things some president does, they can only do it for 8 years, and then their history. I don't care what good things a president does. They can only do it for 8 years. Their history. That was so important to them because of kings and shit like that. People who are in office are dictator for life and that kind of bullshit. No, let's get some new blood in there every 4 years. And that's what drives change. All right. Now, the president usually runs with the vice president. They don't have to. Did you know that right now, if you wanted to, you could run for vice president against Kamala Harris. Not against Biden, just against her. You could do that. Does it ever happen? No, they always run together. It's become a tradition. But you don't have to. Biden could have said, I don't want to choose a running mate. There's nobody that I want. And then somebody would have ran independently. But they usually run together. And then the cabinet members. The cabinet members are appointed by the president once in office. And I'm telling y'all, Donald Trump sold some of his cabinet positions. I'm telling you, he's a businessman. Listen, support me in the election, and I'll appoint you to a cabinet position. Those wheels and deals, wash my back, one hand washes the other. Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. That's what businessmen do, and women. That's what they do. So you know damn well Donald Trump sold some of his cabinet positions. Why? Because of the stupid shit people did once they got into those positions. Anybody ever heard of Scaramucci? Scaramucci. They called him the Mooch. Donald Trump appointed him to a cabinet position. Yeah, he was a rich businessman out there somewhere. But you're going to appoint somebody who calls himself the Mooch to a cabinet position? You're going to get what you get. And what did he get? 10 days into the office, he did his first interview. And somebody said, Mr. Scaramucci, what are you going to do to improve the conditions in the department that you've just taken over? He said, well, I tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to sit around sucking my own like so-and-so did. He said that on national TV. And no, guess what? The next day, he was removed from office. Donald Trump has fired more cabinet members than anybody in history during this presidency. Why? Because he keep appointing people that he sold the offices to, people who have no right or no experience to be in a damn cabinet position. They're businessmen. And it's just kind of prestigious for them to be secretary of this or secretary of that. Most of those positions will carry the word secretary in their name. Secretary of Defense, Secretary of the Interior, and so on. All right, so the 55 cabinet members are appointed by the president. It was 54 until the past decade. And what was the 55th cabinet position? Anybody know? The newest one. Secretary of something. They were appointed in 2001, I think it was. Secretary of Homeland Security, in response to the World Trade Center attacks. So we now have a 55th cabinet member, the Secretary of Homeland Security. But there's been, the Secretary of the Interior, Secretary of Education, and so on. The one that doesn't have the word secretary in their name is the United States Attorney, appointed by the president. And you can't fault somebody for appointing their friends. For example, John Kennedy appointed his brother to United States Attorney. So the president can appoint any damn body they want. It's just obvious that some of those positions were sold as a response in favor of supporting him for the election. But you can't fault him for appointing anybody he wants, because you can't. Didn't he appoint his son-in-law to something? I don't know right off the top of my head, but I think he appointed his son-in-law to some position. So anyway, that is the president, vice president, and the cabinet members. All right, making up the executive branch. From here, know that the executive branch makes laws. Now, there are some things that Donald Trump has been trying to do that we refer to as executive actions. And these things have been in the news lately, like the executive veto. If Congress passes a law and they send that to the president to be signed, if the president refuses to sign it, that's the executive veto. Now, how does checks and balances work? When Congress votes on a law, all they need is a simple majority. Majority rules. So if the vote is 55 to 54, the law passes. All you need is a simple majority. That then goes to the president to sign. The president says, no, I'm not going to sign that. It goes back to Congress, and now they need a 2/3 majority. If they don't get it, no. So what just happened in Congress? We want to impeach Donald Trump. We want to go forward with impeachment hearings or an impeachment process. And I think the vote was 54 to 46 or something like that. Why? 54 Republicans, 46 Democrats. That's the game. You don't vote against your party, whether you like Donald Trump or not. But guess what happened? 51 to 49, I think it was. The Democrats needed 5 people to vote with them, and they only got 4 or something like that. They were real close. They were 2 votes short of impeaching Donald Trump. And the vote did not pass by majority, passed against. So the impeachment hearings never happened. So that is executive veto. If it goes back, they would have needed a 2/3 majority, and there's no way they could have gotten a 2/3 majority. So the president vetoes something, it can still pass. They're just going to need to up the people who vote for it. Executive pardon. President Donald Trump will not go to prison. I'm sorry, y'all. That's the way it works. Yes, he may be found guilty of something. Yes, he may be sentenced to jail time. But the next president will pardon him. I don't care who it is, even Biden. It's tradition. We cannot have a president of the United States in prison. Even a former president of the United States in prison doesn't look right. I don't care what he does, he will be pardoned. Just like Richard Nixon. And the president can pardon anybody for anything, including murder. Executive proclamation. Y'all have heard of things like this from the Emancipation Proclamation. When the president of the United States publicly announces something, it becomes the stance of the United States. If the president says something, remember, president's not a person. President is a country. If Donald Trump says that we are incommunicado with China, anybody who communicates with a Chinese official could be charged with treason. And all the president has to do is say it. It's a proclamation. The president has proclaimed that we are incommunicado with Russia or whatever the case may be. And if you do it, you're charged with treason. And that's the Emancipation Proclamation. Anybody who continued to maintain slaves after the emancipation was issued would be charged with treason, going against the country. And then the executive memo. This is where the Supreme Court finally told Donald Trump, you got to stop tweeting damn public policy. Those are executive memos. Every time you tweet, it's an executive memo. You can't do that. You can't issue executive memos through tweets. So they told him he had to finally stop. All right. And he can still tweet his public opinion, his personal opinion, but he can't tweet public policy or government policy. So you don't see that kind of stuff anymore. We're going to do this to build the wall, and you can't see that anymore. You can see, well, I want to build a wall, and I want support to build a wall. That's just personal. So you don't see executive actions coming out in tweets anymore. So those are the three things, the powers that the president has: to stop laws, to pardon any crime, to make policy just by stating it, and then to communicate with the country through memos. The next branch is the legislative branch. We call them Congress. Their job is to propose laws. You must be a senator or a representative to propose a law. Once it's proposed, it must be voted on. They don't have a choice. So if I'm a seated senator and I'll go into the big meeting and I say, yeah, I think we should have a law, or I'm proposing a law that you can't spit on the sidewalk on Sundays. However dumb it is, they have to vote on it because I proposed it. So the Senate includes 100 senators. That's 2 per state. And that's becoming an issue for people out there in the world, in places, because of California. 70 million people represented by 2 votes. How do you effectively represent 17 million people with just 2 votes in the Senate? You can't. Therefore, they want to break California up into 3 states. Now, Rhode Island has 10 million people, but they get the same 2 votes. So you're weighing the opinion of 10 million against 70 million people with just 2 votes each. No, this should be something like 8 votes. They get 2 votes. You more people, more votes, right? Well, that's not the way it's set up today. 17 million people are represented, or 70 million people are represented by just 2 votes in our Senate. So they want to break California up into 3 states. Call it Southern California, Central, and then Southern California, like North and South Carolina. And the people in California are the ones that are fighting it. Because, you know, Californians think they all that. Good thing my wife's not here. Because in California, I'm California. Okay, I'm California. They think that everybody wants to be from California. You know, like you meet them. I swear to God, y'all, if you were in a room with somebody who was from California, within an hour, you would know they were from California. Am I lying?
How is that, sir? I'm from Cali.
Yeah, because you just tell, you know, I'm Cali. See, listen to just now. What I tell y'all, huh? Thank you for making my point.
Because you was dissing Cali so hard.
I'm California. Think everybody want to be in their little state. Let me tell y'all something. I lived in California for 4 years. They can keep that mess. All them damn people, no, I think they state is just all that. Because we from California. You know what else is like that? Them damn New York assholes, man. If you ain't from New York, you ain't shit. Because we from New York. Anyway, so senators are limited to 6-year terms, and that's good news. However, that's unlimited. And that's bad news, y'all. They need to change that. I'm sorry. We have senators in office that have been in office for 30 years. We have Vietnam era senators still making laws in our state, in our country. We need to get past that. They need to limit these people. Remember, change brings progress. We need to get some young blood in the Senate, man, and start passing some of these laws that just make sense, like legalization of pot. It just makes sense, y'all. But you have too many people holding on to these antiquated ideas from 30 freaking years ago, when pot was a gateway drug. They went to Vietnam and they started on the pot and they ended up on the heroin.
See, if you went to California, sir, you wouldn't have that problem. You can go right to the grocery store, to the weed store right next door.
Whatever. But I'm telling y'all, the day they legalize pot in Texas, I'm going to be the first one in line. Got my hand up. Yep, I'll be one of them to sleep out there the night before, bring my lawn chair and be sitting out there drinking coffee, waiting on the pot store to open tomorrow morning. But anyway, and for me, it's because I just grew up that way, y'all. But anyway, unlimited terms, that is an issue. We need to limit these people, y'all, just like we do the president, and get some new blood up in our legislature. All right, the second part of Congress is the House of Representatives. Now, these are based on the population, and that's why there are 435 of them. California does have more representatives than Rhode Island. So they feel that kind of balances these two out, but I don't. I think that they need to gauntlet up the numbers. But 435 representatives, that's based on the population of the state. They have 2-year terms, but they are also unlimited. Again, a problem. Y'all know Ted Kennedy was a senator for 30. That's why I put the 30 years up there. Ted Kennedy was a senator for 30 years. That's just too much, too long. We need to get some new blood in there. Imagine if today Ronald Reagan was still president. That would be horrible, y'all. We need new blood in the office, in these offices. So anyway, that is, boom, the legislative branch. Now their job is to propose laws. Now the laws that they create are laws that they think are appropriate. And that can be a problem. Where does the problem come in? Special interest groups. What are they? These are people who try to influence the lawmakers to vote in favor of their special interest. For example, the National Rifle Association. They don't want laws that affect people and firearms. So they have a lobbyist that works for them. And just like the name implies, this person hangs out in the lobby of Congress and hijacks senators and representatives as they walk through. Senator Childs, Senator, listen, can I talk to you for a minute? Yeah, listen, you know what, you got that vote coming up next week on that NRA rights bill. How do you plan to vote on that? Well, I think I'm undecided. Well, listen, let me take you to lunch and tell you why we think you should vote in favor of that bill. So I'll take you to some, $500 plate lunch somewhere out there because I got a little bit of budget to work with. And during that lunch, I might tell you something like, all right, Senator, well, I'll tell you what, I've got $50,000 at my disposal. Doesn't that sound illegal? Vote in favor of my law, of this law for us, and I'll give you $50,000.
He's bribing.
Doesn't that sound illegal? It is. However, they can't stop me from contributing money to your campaign fund. So I can't give the money to you, but I can put it in your reelection fund. $50,000 in your reelection fund. That's what I can do. If I give it to you, it'd be a bribe. So that's how they work. And how much money you think the National Rifle Association has out there to put into election funds of all these senators and representatives that are voting on this bill, either in favor or against what they want? They've got hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to donate to these people. Now, let's say you do put something in my campaign fund. If I take that and use it, I've just broken the law. Y'all have heard of it before, misappropriation of campaign funds. Julian Castro, yeah. Wife had dental work, they went on a vacation, and they used campaign funds to do it. That's illegal, you can't do that. But they can also give gifts up to a certain amount, and as long as they are, recorded. You can't give a secret gift. So can this guy give this guy a $35,000 Rolex watch? Yep, sure can. So there you go. That's special interest groups. And there is a person dressed just like this who represents the interest of nursing, called the nursing lobby. When laws are proposed that affect people in nursing, they try to get this person to vote either for or against that law, depending on what we want. There's the National Rifle Association. There is actually a group called the Marijuana Policy Project. They pay a lobbyist to try and get this guy to vote in favor of marijuana legislation. So there are all kinds of lobbyists up there, guys, and that's what they do. And that's part of what your dues go towards. When you join your organization, the American Association of Medical Assistants, and you pay dues, that's where your dues go, to pay that person right there. So when somebody proposes a law, when some nurse talks some politician into proposing a law that says that in order to work in a clinic, you have to be a nurse, the medical assistant lobby says, oh, hell no. No, you're putting my people out of jobs. So that's the political machine working back and forth. They were right about one thing about the presidency. We need a president that's so rich that special interest groups don't have very much influence over them. Somebody who doesn't need your campaign funds. I'll fund my next election myself. I don't need your Rolex watch. I'm a billionaire. So that is true. We do need somebody who is not under the influence of these folks because they don't need what it is they're peddling. So that's how special interest groups affect the laws that are made in our country. And as a result of that, if you are putting medication into a patient by IV, you have to be an RN, a MD or a paramedic, EMT paramedic. The only 3 disciplines out there that can put medication into an IV line. And where did that come from? The nursing lobby. So that vocational nurses, CNAs cannot do this. And what did that give them? Job security. So that's how your lobbyist works in favor of or against legislation like that. Okay. So that any clinic out there that plans to do IV meds, they have to have an RN on staff. They can't do it with a vocational nurse or a CNA. So that's job security. And how do you do it? This guy right here not only gives them this, but he also uses scare tactics. So tell me, Senator, do you want an unlicensed person giving medications to your kid? So they scare them into voting in their favor as well. All right, so that is special interest groups and what they do. I think that we need to have a little more control over this whole process. The judicial branch. This is the branch that evaluates laws and makes sure that they are not constitutional or unconstitutional. And if a law is passed by all 3 branches, then they're the ones that enforce that law. If you do this, this is the consequences for doing it. And that's where most of our conversation will be directed today, is into the judicial branch. It includes all of our courts, the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court, and the appellate courts. Then all of the district courts that y'all have heard of before, criminal, civil, family, juvenile, and traffic courts. The appellate court is the one that reviews every decision made by all of these different courts. And if they decide that this decision was inappropriate, it gets sent back and redone. And that's when somebody says, my conviction is on appeal. The appellate court is reviewing it. If they find any problem in it, they can kick it back and say, no, this isn't good. For example, they find out that during your court case, the judge fell asleep. You're being tried down here in criminal court for whatever, manslaughter or whatever, and during the section of the case, the judge fell asleep sitting on the bench. They don't send that shit back now. No, that's not appropriate. You can't have that. A jury member falls asleep. Or in one of the online, they tried the virtual jury here recently, and one of the jury members got up during the trial, answered a phone call, and then came back and sat down. And the lawyer immediately said, Your Honor, I move for a mistrial. And the judge had no choice but to say, granted. If that would have made it up to the appellate courts, it would have been kicked back automatically. So just because that guy got up and answered a phone call, the trial was mistrial. Can't do that. So that's what the appellate courts do. They review every court decision and make sure that there was nothing inappropriate about that decision or about the proceedings at all. And there's that term, checks and balances. The president can veto bills. Congress can impeach the president. The president can appoint the judges to the Supreme Court, but also has pardon power. The Supreme Court can declare presidential acts unconstitutional. Congress can approve federal judges. Federal judges can declare Congress unconstitutional. So all these checks and balances, one can shut down the other one. And that's why it's so important that we have 3 branches of government. And the 3 branches. So briefly, brief review of so far.
Can I ask you
Yes.
a question? Oh, and
Yes.
like, you know how doctors get like medicine, like people who are selling their medications and they hire like doctors to do it? Do we have like an ethics board that like, because they usually throw money at the doctor, be like, well, if you start passing out my medicine, do we have like some kind of ethic board for them as well?
That just happened in San Antonio. Well, not just happened, but it did happen in San Antonio. The two doctors who were responsible for the health care of every student in or every child in foster care, these two guys, they found that almost every, or like something like 80% of the kids in foster care, well, not in foster care, but were wards of the state. So they weren't in foster homes, they were in like group homes and that type of stuff. They found out that 80% of those children were on Ritalin because these two doctors kept prescribing it. After a little bit of investigation, they found out that both of these doctors were getting kickbacks from the drug company. So no, it's not illegal, or it's not legal, and it is unethical as well. Remember, the name of this lesson is Introduction to Law and Ethics. We'll be talking about the difference between the two as part of this lesson. So
They
yeah,
get
they
prison
were,
time for that? Or we
but
don't know yet. Did they get like prison time or something? I know they probably
absolutely,
lost their license.
absolutely, they went to jail because it was illegal. You don't go to jail for ethics violations. That's what you lose your license for. What they deemed was that what they did was not only unethical, it was also illegal. So yes, they went to prison in addition to losing their license. All right, so we said that the supreme source of law is the Constitution. The branches are the executive branch, which makes the laws. 3 examples of executive actions. The legislative branch, which proposes the laws. And then the judicial branch, which evaluates and enforces laws. 3 branches of our government, what checks and balances are. And when we come back from break, we'll be looking at the Bill of Rights and where that actually came from. So it's 9:32. Let's come back at 10 till, because we've been going for an hour and a half. Let's come back at 10 till.
Mr. Malone,
Yes.
is it okay to talk to you for a second?
Yes.
Okay. So there was a problem with I didn't sign my financial aid papers. So when I
Yeah, I
signed
was wondering what was going on. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah. So when I signed in Monday, even though I was still enrolled, I wasn't like officially a student because I didn't sign my financial aid papers.
Right. So I have you marked present for, I think it's Tuesday that you came to class. But then when I talked to them, they said, well, no, she wasn't officially enrolled yet. So I said, okay. Mm-hmm. Go
So
ahead.
I'm catching up on all the homework I still have. And I just needed to know how would I be turning it in, and as far as how I would do my test.
Okay. As far as the homework goes, remember there's really no catching up because the homework's not due till the last day of the class, or last day of this course. So that's going to be the same day we do our presentations. So all the homework is due on that day. Do it, get it turned in as you get it done, but there is no hurry to get it done. It's all due on the last day. So start doing it, work on it, turn it in as you get it done. You just need to have it all done by the last day. So you're not behind as far as homework goes. Okay. Now, the infection control bloodborne pathogens test that everybody took, which was due today. I'm not going to require you to do that test because you weren't in class for those lessons, or you weren't enrolled for those lessons. And it won't, what it will do is that, well, it will factor into everybody else's grade. That test won't factor into your grade. Okay? So you're not behind on any tests either, because that's the only test that we've done. And I'm not going to hold you responsible for material that you weren't present in class for. Okay? So, and what you can do is I've been sending out the videos for class. Have you been getting those?
Yes,
That's recording. Yeah.
I've caught up on two of them already.
Yeah,
And
yeah. So, look at those, see what kind of stuff we were talking about, But just because you weren't in class, I'm not going to hold you responsible for the infection control bloodborne pathogens part. Watch it and, see what you learn from that. But the chapter 1 and 2, I'm going to need you to take that test. I'm going to activate it today. The videos have been uploaded. I uploaded them yesterday. It was the, oh shoot, those first two chapters in the textbook, chapter 1 and 2, the structure of medical language
medical term.
and the body and health and disease. Okay. So those are the two classes that will be our upcoming test, and there was a review attached to that as well. Read the review, and then you'll get a link. I'll send the link out today. The test will be due Monday. So read the review. When you're ready, just like flashcards, when you're ready, log into the quizzes and take the test.
Yes.
Yeah, so that chapter 1 and 2, watch those two videos, and then that'll prepare you for that test.
Thank you.
And other than that, you're good. So homework is no, do it as you get it done.
And then I got chapter 1 homework done.
In the chapter 1, it's either the end of the chapter 1 video, the structure of medical language video, or the beginning of the chapter 2 video. In one of those, we go through the homework and how to do it.
Oh, I just did it.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So you got it done? You know what you're doing?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, So just work on that stuff. Turn it in as you get it done. Again, I advise everybody not to wait till the last minute, though.
No.
Yeah. So try to get it done. For me,
my 4-year-old, who also, so I'm juggling like both Zooms, mine and her.
But for me, I try to get it done before the last week.
Yes.
And reserve the last week for me to just tighten up my presentation.
So we type it up, our homework?
You can handwrite it and take a picture of it, or you can type it up and email it to me in a document, either way.
Okay.
So if you handwrite it and take a picture, email me the picture. If you type it up in Word, save it and email me the file.
Okay.
Yeah. So either way on those two.
Mr. Mahal,
Yes.
it's Melissa Lucio. I hope you didn't mark me absent for today.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
The only person I have marked absent today is Alma Segovia.
Okay. Also, you mentioned that the homework is due on the last day. Well, when is the last day?
The 3rd of September.
The 3rd of September. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we're back. All right. So the Bill of Rights, where did it come from? First of all, the Bill of Rights is what we call the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Amendments are changes or things that are added. Usually not a change, but something that's added to the Constitution. And the first 10 amendments were not there originally. When the Constitution was written and sent out to the states to the colonies to be ratified, there were 13 colonies and they needed 9 votes in favor in order to make it, law. And they didn't get those 9 votes. The state sent it back and said, yeah, this is a fine and dandy government y'all are setting up here. But what's going to protect us from this government? In other words, how do we know this shit's not going to turn into a kingdom? The stuff we just left. We want something in there that says, first of all, the people have the power. Therefore, the preamble, we the people. Secondly, we want something in there to make sure that this government doesn't pass laws that take away our inalienable rights. So see, the rights in the Constitution are not, the Constitution doesn't give us our rights. Those rights are ours regardless of what this piece of paper says. But we want something in there that says that the government will not pass laws that conflict with the rights that we already have. And that is the first 10 amendments. And the one that they found most important was the First Amendment. The government cannot pass laws that infringe on the rights of the United States. The first 10 amendments start with Amendment 1. This is the thing they found most important. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and freedom of the press. The government will not pass a law that infringes on these. So people don't understand their own damn rights, y'all. When it says you have the right to freedom of speech, does that mean you can go anywhere and say anything you want? No. If you stand in Walmart and you start yelling, y'all shouldn't be shopping here, the high cost, the low prices, they got sweatshops and all the manager's going to call the police. They're going to arrest your butt and haul you right out of there. And the whole time they're pulling you out of there, you're going to be yelling what? I got the freedom of speech. You don't understand your own damn rights. Freedom of speech says that the government cannot pass a law that stops you from criticizing the government. That's what it's all about. You can't speak out against the king. That was how it was in Europe. Here, you can say any damn thing you want about Donald Trump. And the stormtroopers are not going to show up at your house, arrest you, and throw you in a dungeon just because you said something bad about the president. That's your freedom of speech. You have the right to criticize your government. Doesn't mean you have the right to say whatever you want, wherever you want. Freedom of religion. Why was that so important for them? Do y'all know the conflict between Catholic and Protestants? Even Martin Luther King mentioned it. Doesn't matter what you are, whether you are black, white, Jew, Gentile, Catholic, or Protestant. Why Catholic and Protestant? Because one of the kings of England, I can't remember which one of the kings of England wanted to divorce his wife. But the Catholic religion doesn't allow that. And the Pope said, no, you can't do that. So the king pulled the entire country away from the Catholic faith and started the religion called the Protestant Church. The king is in charge of the Protestant Church, and the Pope is in charge of the Catholic Church. So anybody in England at that time who did not renounce the Catholic faith and turn over to Protestant were considered treasonous. You went against the king. So the king were pretty much telling everybody in the country, you can't be Catholic anymore. And the people who did turn to Protestant started to persecute those that didn't. And you had the battle between, war, if you will, between the Catholics and the Protestants.
Mr. Mahal,
Yes.
wasn't it Martin Luther that started the whole Protestant?
No.
Or was it the Reformation?
No, he mentioned it as part of the, the I Have a Dream speech. He mentioned it a couple times, but no, he was not. It started in England by the King of England, the Protestant Church, and they actually persecuted Catholics. They dragged them from their house, beat them in the street, and that type of stuff. So these people were fleeing that type of persecution. So it was very important for them that they be able to practice any religion they want without fear of persecution. So that's where the freedom of religion comes from. I can worship any God I want in any way I want, and the government cannot stop me from doing that. Yeah. Government can't force me to be a certain religion, like the Protestants, like the King did the Protestants. You will be Protestant in England. You will not be Catholic. And then freedom of the press, the ability of the press to speak out against the government and report the government in appropriate ways. And this still is political, by the way. Y'all don't know this, but back in the day, when George Bush was president, George Bush the son, at one of his meetings, right after the meeting, it was with a female ambassador from whatever country, I can't remember which one. You know how they do the two chairs where they sit there and they just talk, and then the pictures are there and dot dot dot. And when George Bush got up from the chair to leave, he walked past the lady and he stopped behind her chair and shoulder squeezed her. How creepy is that shit? A man comes up behind and just squeezes your shoulders like that. And they got that on camera. And it was in the news for one day. After that, it disappeared. So what happened? Somebody put pressure on the press. You got to take that picture out. We can't have that picture. It's a creepy ass picture. And it was, y'all. It was just, it had this little, like, cat that swallowed canary grin on his face, squeezing this lady's shoulders. And they said, no, we can't have that on the newspaper anymore. So they put pressure on them, and it was only in the news for one day. If you go on to TV now, and I would challenge you to do this, watch two news broadcasts. They have to be the same day. Watch the Fox News and CNN News, and you will see a distinct difference in their reporting. Fox is pro-Trump. CNN is anti-Trump. And you can tell by watching the news stories, the twist or the spin that they put on the story. Fox will always put a pro-Trump spin on there. And CNN will always put an anti-Trump spin on it. It's just amazing to see the two different news broadcasts. Shit, Trump must own some stock in Fox or something, man. Or some of his crony homeboys work there or something. His business partners or whatever. But Fox is totally pro-Trump and CNN totally anti-Trump. It's funny to see the difference in the two news broadcasts when they broadcast the same story and see the different twists that each one of them puts on it. All right. So Congress can't make laws respecting the establishment of religion, prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition. We're seeing some of that today, aren't we? With all the protests, they call them protest riots to that now, because people do get stupid out there. Okay, I hate to see protests turn into this bullshit because the wrong people show up. And next thing you know, you got people breaking in buildings and carrying on. Them people couldn't care less about Floyd or anything else that happened. They just want to break in and steal some shit. When those people show up, that's when protests tend to take the wrong direction. Yeah. But our right to assemble for protest, and until they get violent, they're not supposed to do anything about it. Until people start breaking stuff and setting stuff on fire and throwing rocks at the police and turning over police cars and all that kind of shit, or turning over cars and all that. That's giving them the ticket to come in and now break up this protest. And unfortunately, bad people show up and they mess everything up for us. I remember that there was one story where this one guy, he had a brick or something, was about to throw it through the window of a business, and three people ran over and stopped him. And those three people were other protesters. It wasn't the police or the building owner. It was other people who said, man, you're going to mess this up for us. And they ran over and stopped him. So we do have the right to assemble and to peaceably protest against what our government is doing or what somebody else is doing. All right, so that's our First Amendment. Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. Where did this come from? And why is it number 2? I mean, right below freedom of speech, I got a right to carry my damn gun. Remember, these people hunted their food for a living, or they hunted their food back then. They protected their own land. There was no police to call when somebody came onto your property. So they had to have the arm to protect themselves and their properties. Guns are the great equalizer, guys. This is what prevents somebody from Conan the Barbarian from riding into town and taking everything and killing everybody. I'm gonna shoot back. I don't have to be a big tough guy to shoot you. So the guns are the great equalizers. And that's what I believe in guns, y'all. I believe that I'm a gun person. I have several guns, including assault rifle. I have 6 handguns, 2 assault rifles, and a shotgun. And don't try to take my guns away from me. I believe in the great equalizer. Don't come messing with me just because you're a big tough dude, you big tough MMA fighter, so you're gonna run around beating everybody up. No, I'm gonna pop a cap in your ass. The great equalizer. So, and I'm not a tough guy, and that's why. And I can't be out here fighting people. Are you kidding me? Y'all see the guy on the news the other day or a few weeks ago that pulled the gun on the people in Walmart because they asked him to wear a mask? See, I might have shot his ass. And the truth is, guys, I've never pulled a gun on anybody. I've never pulled the trigger, obviously, definitely. But I'm not going to let you. My favorite saying is that when the shooting starts, I'm not going to be the only one standing there without a gun. I have my license to carry. I carry my gun everywhere I go, except to the school because they don't allow it. So anyway, the reason for this as well is the well-regulated militia. You are part of the U.S. militia if you're a U.S. citizen. What that means is that if our military fails and China invades, it's our job to grab our gun, go out there and resist them. And you can't do that if the people don't have the right to bear arms. So that's the biggest thing right there, that we are the U.S. militia. We're the backup for our military. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, we do get carried away with this one. People hide behind this as a means to stockpile firearms and that type of stuff. You see, I don't think this means that we have the right to have, 27 assault rifles and 10,000 rounds of ammunition in the trunk of our car when we driving around the city. Why would you do that? Why would you have that? Okay. I don't know if y'all remember, y'all probably not old enough to remember this. I can't remember what year it was, but I got up one Saturday morning, sitting in the living room watching TV, flipping through the TV, and I come across this scene. I thought it was a movie at first because it was so unbelievable. These dudes on a Saturday morning, 2 guys, they backed their car up to the front door of a Bank of America, and they backed the car right up to where the trunk is right there at the front door. Right as the manager opened the front doors, backed up, boom, went inside to rob the place. A police car happened to be driving by and saw them going in. They were dressed in all black with hoods and ... The police like, really? They were going into the bank. So when they came out, there was that cordon of police cars out there, that little U-shape, everybody out there at the guns, drop your weapons, or blah, blah, blah. Now I'm watching this on the news. The news helicopters flying overhead, and they catch, boom, all on video. And I'm like, look at these fools, man. Is this a TV show? Is this a movie? Those dudes stepped out and they looked at those police. They had these big black bags in their hands. They looked at the police and they turned around and stepped back in the bank. Now the person in the helicopter is reporting, oh, it's going to be a hostage situation. This very tense situation, breaking news right now, and ... with no damn hostage situation. Them dudes came back out about 30 seconds later, and they had those fully automatic weapons that's got the big round drum of ammunition, the one that holds 100 rounds, and they just started lighting shit up. Ta, 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 ta. And I'm looking at it going, no, this is not happening. I mean, police are diving. The bullets are going through cars that they're hiding behind. People out there trying to film it with their little phones are getting shot, diving behind cars. I mean, these dudes are just relentless, y'all. Ta, 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 ta. They're just lighting shit up. The police are shooting back. They're hitting the dudes, but turn out they're wearing this homemade full body armor. So the bullets are hitting them, but they're not even knocking them down. And if you shot one of them, they turned their attention on you and just unleashed on your ass. So the police out there with their 9mm, and these dudes just, you can see stuff just exploding as these bullets are hitting them. And this is on TV. I'm going, no freaking way this is happening right now. That shit went on for 44 minutes. When they ran out of ammunition, they didn't reload. They dropped the rifle, went to the trunk of the car, grabbed another one, and came out and kept going. These dudes were not going to jail. And the police, all they had was the 9mm. So it goes on for so long. They get video of a policeman running from a pawn shop because he ran down to the pawn shop to try and get rifles that would penetrate the body armor these guys were wearing. So he's running back to the fight now with a shopping cart with rifles sticking out of it, running back to the fight, and they're catching this on the news. This is how long this crap is going on. These two dudes finally decided they needed to move. So one guy started driving the car and the other guy was walking next to it at about 5 miles an hour. Just ta 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 ta. The police cordon broke down a long time ago. These dudes are headed out into a residential neighborhood. There's traffic, cars coming, and there's this running gun battle between them and the police with cars just driving around. People are jumping out of their cars and running and all this mess. They finally get the two guys pinned down and they get one of them with a headshot and he died. They got separated. So the car broke down and they went to find another car. This guy went that way, that guy went this way. The guy who went over here, he ran out of ammunition, was down to the sidearm, and the police ended up shooting him in the head and killing him. The other dude got pinned down behind the car with this, like, shooting back and forth with the police at another car, maybe 20 feet away, and they're just firing back and forth. And somebody shot underneath the car and hit him in his feet. He fell down, they ran over and took him down. So anyway, why am I talking about these two guys? They had been arrested before. With all that ammunition and all those guns were in the trunk of that car. And one of them had a warrant. So they took them in and they confiscated everything. But when they squared away the warrant, they petitioned to have their guns returned to them, and they returned it all to them because they had the right to bear arms. Several fully automatic rifles and thousands of rounds of ammunition. They gave it all back. And these dudes end up robbing a bank with it. So I think that this is kind of antiquated in its practice. Yes, everybody has a right to bear arms, but there is such a thing as being carried away 10,000 rounds of ammunition and fully automatic weapons in your car. And they give that all back to you because you had the right to bear arms. Okay, so anyway, the right to bear arms. The Third Amendment, they can't house soldiers in your house. The Fourth Amendment, unreasonable search and seizure. This is where they say they need a warrant. Now, if a policeman pulls you over, do they need a warrant to search your car? What do y'all think? Police pull you over, do they need a warrant to search your car?
They have to have probable cause.
Even with probable cause, do they need a warrant to search your car?
No.
Not if you give them verbal consent. Without verbal consent, it would be a violation of your rights. So yes, they would require.
So when they say to you, can I search your car? If you say no, do they need a warrant?
Yes, unless they take your car or you in custody. That gives them, they go right to search your vehicle because you're being detained.
Even if they take you in custody, they still need a warrant to search that vehicle. Okay. And is that going to stop them from searching it? No, they'll get a warrant. And if you say no, they say to you, can I search your car? And you say no, just know that you're going to sit on the curb in handcuffs until they get the warrant. That's all. It's not going to stop them. They're going to get the warrant. And you get to sit there handcuffed while they wait for it. And then they'll tell you, you're not under arrest. You're being detained. I'm handcuffing you for your safety and mine. You know, handcuffs, you sit your ass right down there on the ground until they call in, talk to a judge who's on call, and they issue them a verbal warning, a verbal warrant. And what does it take for them to get a verbal warrant? Your Honor, I smelled weed when I went up to the car. There you go. There's a warrant. That's all they have to do. That's their out every time. I smelled weed. Now, if they search your car and don't find any weed, are they going to punish you? Punish the policeman? No, because they threw it out the window or they ate it. So all they have to do is tell the judge, I smelled weed, and there you go. They got their warrant. So they're going to get the warrant. So whether you say no or not, they're going to get the warrant. Their difference is, do you get to sit here cuffed on the curb while they wait for it? But they're going to get their warrant. So they can't unreasonably search you. Now in California, the stop and frisk laws were eventually deemed unconstitutional. Y'all may not be familiar with those. The governor of California issued a state law that a policeman can search you without showing probable cause. In other words, you're walking down the street, come over here. What do you got in your pockets? Period. And they don't have to do any kind of justification. They can stop you and search you without showing cause. And what that turned into was bullying. Because of course, what you would see on television or on the First 48, sir, can you step over here to the car, please? Yes, I'm going to search you because I believe . No, that's not what it was. Get your ass over here. Get up against that damn car. Who the hell you think you are? I'm the police. I'm the biggest gang in the city. This is our city. Punk. Slam you down on the car, slam your head on the car. Why? Because I have a right to search you. So that's what stop and frisk became. It wasn't, sir, could you step over here, please? Could you empty your pockets, please? They were grabbing kids and people and just ripping their clothes. You know, trying to grab their pocket and just rip. I was trying to see what was in his pocket. You didn't pull the man's pants down and ripped his pants because you were trying to see what was in the pocket. That's what it became. So the Supreme Court finally deemed it was unconstitutional and told them they couldn't do that. And the stop and frisk laws were overturned. All right. So blah, 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 blah. All right, so we do see some loopholes in here. For example, if the police get a warrant to search your house for a gun that they believe was used in a crime, and they search your house and they find cocaine instead, can they charge you with having that cocaine?
Yes.
No. No, the warrant said they were searching for a gun. So that's why they write warrants. They are very particular in the way they write warrants. And understand too, you think that policeman not going to call the judge back and say, Judge, we didn't find a gun, but we found cocaine? You think the judge now is going to retroactively give them a warrant to search for cocaine? They will. Yeah, they will. But technically, no, they're not supposed to charge for anything they find other than what they were looking for. All right, so the Fifth Amendment, probably the most important one to us, not just as people, but definitely in healthcare. And how do we say this one right here? Keep your damn mouth shut. You are not going to talk your way out of that room. Have y'all seen the First 48? You know what room I'm talking about, right? That interview room. You're not going to talk your way out of there.
Yeah.
Shut your mouth. And that's what the people are trying to do. They think if I just talk, if I just say whatever, I'll be going home tonight. Once they take you in that interview room, start thinking this. Okay, I'm going to jail tonight. Who am I going to call to bail me out? Don't start thinking I'm going to talk my way out of this room, because you're not. Shut your mouth, go to jail, have somebody bail you out, take your day in court. You're not talking your way out of that room. And so many people tried. How many of y'all seen the first 48? And you see them too, don't you? Well, I was just this, I was just that. Shut up, fool. It's all a game to them, y'all. It's us, it's them against us. That's the way the police see it. That's the way the legal system sees it. It's them against us. They're not there to protect us. They're there to control us. They're not there to prove you innocent. They're there to prove you did this shit. They are not on your side. I don't care what they say. Can they lie to you in that room? Sure they can. And they'll justify it by saying, well, I was just trying to do my job and get them to confess. And they'll tell you every line in the damn book. Yeah, your homie down there telling on you, that kind of stuff. Anybody ever seen a TV show called The Wire? About Baltimore drug dealers. It's still one of my favorite TV shows. I binge watch The Wire every now and then, 1 or 2 seasons, just because. All right. In one episode of The Wire, they've got these 2 kids, and they want them to talk. Now, the first thing they're going to do is split you up. Now, if you ever seen The Wire, then you know in the last episode where they busted Marlo and all of them, and they put them, Marlo and Cheese and all them, Snoop and all them guys, and then in the episode, they put them all in one cell together, one big bullpen cell, after arresting them all for drug conspiracy. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Hell no, they're not going to put y'all all in the same room. And what were they doing in that cell? Okay, who talked? Who told on us? Who we need to get rid of, and . That's why they're not going to put you in the same room. So that's the biggest mistake they made in The Wire. For drama, they put all them guys in one room together. They're not going to do that shit. They're going to separate you. And they're going to take you to 2 separate rooms. And you're going to be interviewed by 2 separate officers, detectives. Now, what they're going to do, and what they did in The Wire, they had the one guy telling him, you know, your homeboy told on you, right? Yeah, he said you the one pulled the trigger. All right. And you know what it took him to turn on you? Took for him to turn on you? Big Mac, order fries, strawberry soda. That's how your boy roll, right? Now the other guy with the other kid. All right, listen, it's lunchtime. I'm going down to McDonald's. What do you want? I don't want nothing, man. Y'all not going to get me like that. Bribe me with some food. No. That's not what it's about. It's lunchtime. You're in our custody. It's the law. I have to feed you. You want something or not? You can sit there and stay hungry for all I care. I have to. All right, then. Order fries, Big Mac, strawberry soda. I ain't telling y'all shit, though. No, it's not about that. I got to feed you. So you go get the kid the food. Take it in there to them. As soon as they do, they said, we have to move you to another room. Follow me down the hall. Walking right past the other interview room so his buddy can see him with the McDonald's. Oh, man. And this dude now starts talking. How many times y'all seen one of them interview rooms doing an interview with the door open? I mean, with the door open. They usually don't do that. But during this time, door's wide open so he can see his homie walking past with the Big Mac, order fries, strawberry soda. Oh, man, you told on me. Now this guy starts talking. One episode of 48 Hours. This one made me mad, y'all. I literally wanted to jump in the TV and slap this woman. She was the lady cop, black lady, and she's got the girl in the room. They try to get her to say something about whatever. And so here's the black lady with the black young lady. Now, girl, now you know us, and you know we all sisters, and yeah, this man and put you in a spot, you know you need to go on and I'll be back in a minute. And then she gets up and leaves. And now she's standing outside with all the other cops and they're watching the girl on the video. And now she's like, the lady cop is like, oh yeah, see, I got her, look. See, I got her. And then the girl in the camera, they see she starts crying. Now here's the black lady cop. Oh, she's crying. She's crying. Watch this, watch this. And she runs down in the room and she puts her arm around. Come on, girl. Now you know you need to These people are not your freaking friends, y'all. They're not gonna put their arm around you and comfort you unless they're trying to get something out of you. If they think you're not gonna talk, no, they don't give a shit about you. Take their ass downtown. But as long as they're trying to manipulate you, oh yeah, that's your girl. You know I got you, girl. She was so two-faced, I just wanted to jump through the screen and slap her ass. But it's all a game to them.
She used the black card.
She what? Yeah, she played that black card. You know we sisters, you know. Keep your damn mouth shut. Don't tell them people anything. If the policeman pulls you over and says, do you know how fast you were going? You say, yep. So how fast you think you were going? As soon as you say something, that's an admission of guilt. That's why they do that. Why else would they ask you, do you know how fast you were going? To get you to admit how fast you were going. Now you go to traffic court, pay the damn ticket. Ain't gonna be no talking your way out of it. You've already admitted guilt just by saying, yeah, I knew how fast I was going. But what if the policeman says to you, they pull you over for speeding. They says to you, yes, I pulled you over for speeding. Do you know how fast you were going? And you say, I have the right to remain silent. I don't want to answer any questions without a lawyer present. Well, see, now you're a smart ass. And they're gonna start figuring out other ways. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go and give you a ticket for speeding, but I'm also gonna give you a ticket because you moved lanes over there without signaling, because you were following too close to this car. So they're gonna punish you for being an asshole. Because I'm the popo. Answer my damn question. Or they'll lie to you and say something like, well, that right only applies once you've been arrested. Bullshit. When they read you your rights, they're reminding you of your rights. They're not telling you that now you have these rights. You have the right to remain silent whether you're in custody or not. But they'll try and bullshit you. You have to answer my questions. No, I don't. So anyway, but when you don't answer them, guess what? Now you're a smart ass. So this is what I'm saying to you when I'm saying you don't want to get involved in the legal system, guys. The deck is stacked against you. And I'm not being cynical. I'm being realist. I'm not going to be naive out there in the world either. What do you do when you see the police car behind you with the lights flashing? What do you do? Of course, you pull over. But do you prepare for that interaction between you and that policeman? Yeah. Here's what I do, especially if it's at night. First thing I do, I roll down all the windows on the car. So they can see front and back. There's no, I was trying to see something through the window. No, all the windows are down. The second thing I do is I turn on the dome light to make sure the car is illuminated inside. You're not gonna be talking about I was reaching for some shit. You didn't know what I was reaching for. The lights are on, all the windows are down. My driver's license is up in the sunglass part. You know where you keep your sunglasses up there? Pop that sunlight driver's license right there. I'm not reaching down for shit. I'm not going in my back pocket. Because if you're pulling me over, there's a good chance I'm armed because I carry a gun everywhere I go. So I'm not going to be reaching back or down for shit. My license and registration are right up here, along with my insurance paperwork. Boom. I don't do anything until the policeman says so. My hands are on the steering wheel. Sir, do you know why I pulled you over? Yes. No, sir, I don't. You were speeding. Okay. I need your license and registration. My license and registration are in the sunglass holder up there. How would you like me to proceed? I ain't doing shit until you tell me to. The other part, I have a dash cam. I don't play that shit. And my dash cam is angled to the window. It records the inside and the outside of the car, and it's turned so you can see the entire window over there. You got your body cam, I got my camera too. The difference is mine records to the cloud. So you can snatch the thing if you want. Recording is on the cloud. You're not going to get the recording off of there. Guys, I drive with a gun all the time. I cannot be out here taking chances with these fools. And when they pull you over, if you have a license to carry, that comes up on the screen when they run your license plate number. Matter of fact, it comes up in flashing red. I've seen a video of it. It comes up in flashing red, license to carry. So they know you have a license to carry. And I'm not taking any chances with these fools out there. So don't take chances with them, guys. Don't be smart assing with them, because out here it's not going to do anything anyway. Yes, sir. No, sir. Thank you, sir. Is that being able to tell them off? Is that worth taking the chance of getting shot? Because you know they will shoot your ass. So it's not worth it. Yes, sir. Do you know you were speeding? No, sir, I didn't. Oh, so you weren't paying attention then, if you say so, sir. Do not get in a pissing contest with these people. They can shoot you and get away with it. You shoot them, you go to jail for life. The deck is stacked against you. Know that. So don't say anything. If somebody comes to your clinic and they said, well, this is a real, happened to me one night. Guy jumped out of a car. We called, well, let me just start this way. We got a call in the middle of the night, about 11 o'clock at night. We go out to a dark street. There's a man laying on the side of the road. We treat him, and he says that he was hit by a car. He was walking along the road, car came along, hit him. Okay, so we treated him, took him down to the emergency room downtown, got him admitted down there, came back to our building. Policeman come in about an hour later. He was from the OSI. It's the Air Force version of NCIS. They investigate crimes in the Air Force, Office of Special Investigations, the OSI. He showed up and he showed us his badge, and he says, so Sergeant Mahone, you treated somebody, Mr. ... Yep, treated him, just took him downtown. Yep, sure did. Well, could you tell me, a little bit about what happened? I say, well, the guy said he's walking around along the road and he was hit by a car. And he said to me, so, Sergeant Mahone, do you believe that the person was hit by a car? The man said he was hit by a car. I understand that, Sergeant Mahone, I understand that. But have you treated people that have been hit by cars before? Yes, I have. Were his injuries the same as the other people who you've treated who were hit by cars? The man said he was hit by a car. So this guy looked at me and he said, Sergeant Mahone, you're just not going to cooperate, are you? Lawyer. You're not going to answer more questions? Lawyer. You can be a smart ass with me? Lawyer. Because I'm not saying what you want me to say? Lawyer. I'm not answering your questions. And he told my commander that I was not cooperating with him the next day. Now, as I explained the scenario to the commander's sitting there nodding his head. Yep, I understand. I would have done the same thing. He was trying to get me to say the guy jumped out of a car. Did he jump out the car? Yeah. I looked at the injuries on him and I knew right away this guy wasn't hit by a damn car. He jumped out of a car. You could tell by the injuries. But I'm not about to say that to you. Prove it in court. And I'm not going to be your proof. Anyway, so when they say you have the right to remain silent, keep your mouth shut. You're not going to talk your way out that room. All right. Oh, by the way, the Fifth Amendment also gives us the double jeopardy law. You can't be tried for the same crime twice unless significant information comes to light that wasn't available during the first trial. And we're talking about they finally find an eyewitness or something like that. Other than that, you can't be tried for the same thing twice. You can't be compelled to testify against your spouse. This recognizes the sanctity of marriage. Now, you can testify if you want, but they can't subpoena you and force you to come in and to testify against your spouse. It recognizes the sanctity of marriage. And then, this also gives us the eminent domain laws, where they can take your property if it's beneficial to the community. And they just used that up on Callahan. I don't know if y'all know the area of the school up there, 410 in Callahan, up in that area. If you go right on Callahan and start headed like outside the loop or inside the loop, inside the loop, right on Callahan, you'll notice that the streets that used to be a 2-lane street is now like 6 lanes. 2 lanes going, or 2 lanes going each way with the turning lane in the middle. How did it go from 2-lane streets to 5 when the yards were right up to the street? They took those people's backyards because they wanted to widen the road. And some of those houses now, the backyard is that big. They pushed it all the way back. I saw one that I noticed, the guy, there's a shed in the backyard. The fence to the sidewalk now is right up against that shed. So his backyard is about the size of the length of a basic storage shed. When they had pretty much big backyards, they took it off. Now, as a result, though, they had to offer them just compensation. If they wanted to sell their house, they had to sell the house, or they had to buy the house, but they had to pay market value for it. And a lot of people did sell their houses. So a lot of those houses right along Callahan are for sale right now. But who the hell wants to buy a backyard with a street the size of Callahan right behind you and this much backyard? The people won't be able to sell the houses. All right, right of accused persons in criminal trials. This tells what you have, what rights you have once you've been accused of a crime. And that's the right to a jury trial, a right to a speedy trial. If you think these things are, not important, go to a country where they don't have that, where they can put your butt down in the jail for 6 months and not offer you bail or anything else. This is why we have a bail system. If they can't offer you a speedy trial, they must offer bail, unless the prosecutor can show some reason why they shouldn't offer you a set bail for you, like you're a flight risk or you're coming up for the death penalty. They probably won't offer you bail. But other than that, we have the bail system that will get us out. Okay, now probably the most important thing in here, or the thing that they referred to as the Sixth Amendment loophole. This is where speedy trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, saying that your jury members has to be selected from the district where you're being charged. The entire United States is districted. The entire United States has been districted, but there was a problem with the districts. It's right here. You can barely see it, but this little sliver of land right here, just to the right of right over here. In reality, it's about 2 miles wide, and it wasn't districted. Wyoming did their district, Montana did theirs, but when Idaho did the district over here, because this is a national forest, they left that part undistricted. And as a result, it wasn't part of any district. So the federal government stepped in and made it a federal district, right along where I'm running the cursor right now, just that little sliver of land. So that little piece of land is a district all to itself. So if you commit a crime in there, you have to be tried by somebody who lives there. The jury has to be selected from people who live in this little sliver of land right there. And guess what? Nobody lives there. That's the Sixth Amendment loophole. You commit a crime in here, you can't be tried because they can't select a jury from the people who live in the district because nobody lives there. So the conspiracy theory part of it is that if you go in that area right where I'm moving the cursor, if you go in there and murder somebody, they can't try you for it because they can't select a jury. That's based on the idea that somebody hunting on this land killed a deer, and you're not supposed to kill deer, you're supposed to kill bucks. But somebody killed a deer there. They gave the person a $2,000 fine. They chose to go to court, and they had to throw it out because they couldn't find jury members for the trial because nobody lived there. So now, based on that case, people have taken it a step further. Well, what happens if you kill somebody on that land? They'll find a way to try your ass. I promise you. A $2,000 fine, okay, is not worth it. Just let it go. You kill somebody, yeah, they're going to find a way to try you. So if you're thinking today, I know what some of y'all are thinking, then I can drive my brother-in-law up there and just kill him right there, and I won't go to jail. Yes, you will, because it's also illegal to plan a murder. And they will try you in whatever district you planned the murder in. So like I say, they will find a way to try you. So it's just an old wives' tale that you can go up there, kill somebody and get away with it. No, they'll find a way. And that's based on a hunting incident. And hunting incident, who cares about the $2,000 fine? But you kill somebody, they'll find a way. And the rest of the amendments are interesting, but not interesting enough to take a lot of time to talk about. So the first 10 amendments of the Constitution are what referred to as the Bill of Rights. Now, let me ask y'all, do y'all know the only amendment that's ever been added to the Constitution that has been revoked or repealed? What's the only amendment to ever be repealed? Something was added, and then years later, they said, we got to undo that. It was your
Slavery. That type of stuff.
18th Amendment, which made it illegal to buy, sell, produce, or consume alcohol in the United States. And it was repealed by the 21st Amendment, which made it as if that one never existed. They don't take it out. It's still there. But the 21st Amendment says, don't pay attention to it. It's not law anymore. And then, of course, you know, the right of women to vote and things like that are amendments that were added after the original 10. All right. So let's go here now. Laws. We've talked about the Constitution, our first source of law. The second source of law was criminal law. Things that have been deemed as criminal throughout the entire United States. There is no state where these things are legal. And they include murder. And the thing you have to know that the thing that has to exist for you to be charged with murder is premeditation. They have to prove that you planned it. And that's why on the first 48, you see instances all the time. Two guys get into an argument over a drug deal. One guy shoots the other guy, and they charge the guy with manslaughter. Why not murder? Because the person didn't plan it. It wasn't premeditated. They get charged with manslaughter instead. Now, let's say somebody shoots your cousin. You go get your homies, y'all jump in the car, you go out, find the guy, drive by, you kill the guy. That's murder. You planned it. It was premeditated. Aggravated murder is when there are extenuating circumstances or circumstances that actually make this act even worse than just murder. For example, you kill a kid, you kill a priest, you kill a cop, you beat a 90-year-old lady to death with a hammer. That's some heinous shit right there. And they're going to charge you with more than just murder. It's going to be aggravated. Or if you commit murder in the furtherance of another crime. You're robbing a convenience store, and during the robbery, you shoot the clerk, and the clerk dies. It's aggravated murder. Those are the things you go to the death penalty. They go for the death penalty for. So you do something that is just so heinous. We want to take it beyond just, you had an argument with this guy, you went and found him and killed him. No, this is a little worse than that. You killed a kid during a drive-by or some shit like that. Okay, now, what do you have to do in the United States to get away with murder? And I'm not pleading guilty, or I'm not pleading insane. The first thing everybody say, well, you got to prove insanity. Nope, I'm not insane. I killed your ass.
You need a really good lawyer and a really bad prosecutor and no evidence and no body.
Okay, all right. You got a body because I killed the guy right in front of you. Not only did I kill him in front of you, but I killed him in front of the police. I killed this guy on camera. There was a news camera right there, caught the whole thing.
Self-defense.
Self-defense.
I planned it out. No, the guy was handcuffed when I shot him. So there's no self-defense.
Preventing
And I
rape.
definitely planned it. I was laying on his ass. I was waiting for him. And when he walked past, I turned around, shot him in the back of his head. I planned that shit. I did it. I planned it. You got it on camera. I confessed to it. I'm not insane, and it was not self-defense. How the hell do I not go to jail for that? It happened. This man was standing in the airport. And when the two police escorted the guy past him, the guy was in handcuffs, had a policeman on each side. The news cameras are right there. This guy was standing there pretending he was on the phone. When they walked past, he put the phone down, picked up his gun, shot the dude in the back of the head, put his gun down, and surrendered. They arrested him. He went to court. He was not insane and said, if you bring him in here right now, I'll shoot his ass again. And he didn't do a day in jail. All you have to do is convince 12 people that they would have done the same thing. It was justified. Yep, I would have sitting up in that jury. You tell me this story, I'd have killed his ass too. That's what you want. And his lawyer was able to convince the jury members that they would have done or at least thought about doing the same thing. He was justified in killing that man. The man had raped his son. And done it and when after the rape, he fled the state. They caught him, brought him back to the state. They were bringing him through the airport. The father was right there. As they went by, he shot the man in the head. And the jury said, it was wrong, but we understand why you did it. And they gave him life probation, but he didn't spend a day in jail. So that is murder. Arson. Arson is usually going to be charged when you've done something for some type of gain. In other words, if you are just a pyromaniac out there burning stuff, yeah, but when we take you to court and really throw the book at you, it's because your fire killed somebody or because you did it for monetary gain. You're trying to hide another crime. Like trying to get rid of a body or something like that. I'm wondering who this is pulling up out front right here. Or you did it to get the insurance money. Like the dude who burned down his gym on 410 in Ingram because he wasn't making any money. So he burned the gym in order to get the insurance money. But unfortunately for him, a fireman died in the fire. Aggravated murder. Remember, when you kill somebody in furtherance of another crime, that's murder. The fireman died while fighting the fire that he set on purpose. He was charged with aggravated murder, made him eligible for the death penalty. Now, when technically rape should be an issue between two people, but we across the board have decided that that's just so heinous that no, this needs to be a crime, okay, to rape somebody. So rape is illegal. It should be a civil issue, but okay, you can't be out there doing that stuff. Theft. Now, there is a little caveat here to stealing stuff. When does theft become a felony? What makes theft
And it's like
something?
$1,000 or something.
Up
Jennifer, you were breaking up. I heard you,
anywhere
Carrie.
from 500 to, I guess, like the thousands, it becomes a felony.
$1,000. I heard you, Karenisha. Anything above $1,000. So if you steal a car, guess what? It's always grand theft auto. I don't care what piece of shit car you steal. They're going to make it worth $1,000. Let's see, $100 for each tire, then $20 for each rim. Oh, there was a radio in there for $30, and the battery is worth $10, and they won't get it to add up to $1,000. So you steal a car, it's always grand theft. It's always more than $1,000. Kidnapping. Kidnapping is always a federal offense. And so is bank robbery. Both of these are felony or federal. I don't care where you do it at. If you kidnap somebody, the FBI is showing up. Guaranteed. Even if it's your own kid. So those people who think that their kid, that the wife gets custody of the kid, so I'm going to come over and take the kid, FBI going to be chasing your ass. That's kidnapping. Or if you rob a bank, kidnapping or a federal offense. Why are both of these, out of all of this, you would think that murder would be a federal offense? Nope. Bank robbery and kidnapping. Why are they both federal offenses? Anybody know the history behind that? And here's what people will tell you when they don't know, when they're just freaking guessing. Oh, because banks are federally insured. No, that's not why. I even heard them say that in a movie once. And this just shows you that people don't do their research. They just say what they think they know. In the movie, a bank was robbed. The FBI showed up and told the police there, this is our jurisdiction because the bank was federally insured. No, that's not why. Bank robbery is a federal offense because of Bonnie and Clyde, John Dillinger, Pretty Boy Floyd, all those bank robbers from back in the 1920s and 30s. What they would do is they would live in one state right along the border of another state. So they would live right here and cross over and rob banks that were right along the border. So after the robbery, they could just run back across the border and the police couldn't chase them. And J. Edgar Hoover went to the president and said, you want me to put a stop to this shit? Make bank robbery a federal offense. And that way the FBI can chase them wherever they go. FBI is not limited by borders. So they made bank robbery a federal offense, just so that you can chase bank robbers if they leave the state and go to another state. Back in those days, they didn't have radios and stuff, so the police car would literally chase them on their tail until they crossed the border, and then the police car had to stop. They couldn't call the other state to ... They had to stop. So that's why bank robbery is a federal offense, to be able to chase bank robbers across state borders. Kidnapping, same thing. Had to do with the Lindbergh baby. Charles Lindbergh, the guy who flew across the Atlantic for the first time solo, somebody kidnapped his kid and held him for ransom. And unfortunately, the baby died in custody with the bank robbers. And the FBI said that if they had been able to go into the other state where they believed the baby was without having to get permission from the other state before they could go in there, they probably would have got there in time to save the baby. So Charles Lindbergh started a petition to make kidnapping a federal offense so that the FBI will get involved. So no matter where the kidnappers go, the FBI can chase them. So those two both became federal offenses because of cases in past history where it would have benefited for them to be chased by the FBI versus local police.
Sure, but what happens in some cases where they leave the United States area and they go to a different continent? So does that still apply for the federal government to go to like Egypt, China?
We have to have that country's permission.
Gotcha.
And if that country doesn't give us their permission, then no. Like, you know where criminals go because there is no extradition to the United States? Costa Rica. That's why so many criminals go to this country, because they have no extradition with the United States. Even China will send you back. Costa Rica will not.
What about Cuba?
Cuba has no extradition with the United States now, but Cuba won't let you in there either.
Yeah, there's one of the people that were involved with like Tupac's stepfather, and they killed the police officer, and the lady crossed, and she's in Cuba, and they were trying to get her back to the United States to prosecute her.
No, then she did that, then she must have been Cuban in the first place, because Cuba just don't let people in like that. So she must have been Cuban here in the United States. We'll let Cubans come to the United States, but they won't let people come to Cuba like that. Costa Rica will. And by the way, check this out. The one witness that said that Michael Jackson molested me as a kid, the one person who said, yes, he did molest me, right after making that statement, guess where the family took him? The kid. Their family moved to Costa Rica. Now, how odd is that? Right after accusing Michael Jackson of molesting me, the family moves to Costa Rica, meaning that they could not bring that kid back to the United States to testify. They couldn't force him. And people say, well, Michael Jackson paid him. No. They had the kid's deposition. And what they're telling Michael Jackson is, you don't get a chance to interview this kid. Your lawyers don't get a chance to talk to this kid because they live in Costa Rica now. But we have the statement right here, and we're going to use that in court against you. Remember the right to confront your accusers? They're telling Michael Jackson, you can't do that because the kid lives in Costa Rica now. So it's not Michael Jackson that did it. But somebody gave that family money to move to Costa Rica, where they couldn't be called back to the United States. And in a little while, we'll talk about what Michael Jackson did about that. The rest of our asses would be in jail right now. All right, so terrorist acts or threats. This became federal felony in, as you can imagine, around the 2000, 2003 timeframe. It's always been like a threat to a crime to accuse somebody of a threat, but they're always misdemeanors. I'm gonna kick your ass. So that's a misdemeanor. Misdemeanor assault. But, and I know y'all heard me say misdemeanor assault. Yes, that's true. If I say I'm gonna kick your ass, that's assault. All right. So anyway, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So terrorist acts or threats. I'm gonna blow something up. If you act against me, it's a way, if you're trying to control somebody's behavior through fear, that's terrorist act. Assault and then battery. All right. I just remembered that I have slides for each one of these. This is the one we want to talk about right now. Assault. These are so commonly misunderstood that I had to put them on your test. Assault is harming or threatening to harm another person. If I say I'm going to kick your ass, that's assault. I just threatened to harm you. Or in our case, healthcare, Mr. So-and-so, if you don't eat your food, I'm going to tie you down to the chair. Is that a threat? Yes. And guess what you get charged with? Assault. And now you're saying, well, I never put my hands on nobody. You don't have to. All you have to do is threaten to do so. And you'll be charged with assault. What does it mean to put your hands on somebody? That's battery. And that's why people sometimes get charged with assault and battery. I threaten to kick your ass and then I actually do it. Assault and battery. I threaten you and then I put my hands on you. Assault and battery. Sexual battery is when you grab somebody, you touch somebody in a sexual way. You grab their butt, you grab their breast, you grab their crotch. Sexual battery. You touched me and I didn't want you to. In that case, you touched me in a sexual way. Sexual battery. All right, now, if you take out a gun and point it at somebody, is that assault? What do y'all think? Pointing a gun at a person, is that assault?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It is a threat to harm you. It's assault. Now, it might be justified. In other words, they pulled their gun out first, or they started approaching you in an aggressive manner, fist telling them what they're going to do. You shoot them. Yeah, you assaulted them, but it's justified and you won't go to jail for it. All right. So anyway, that's the difference between assault and battery. Assault is the harm. I punched you in the face, or I shot you. I've hurt you, or I've threatened to harm you. If that harm comes from me touching you, then it's battery. So if I pull out my gun and shoot you and you don't die, that's assault. If I come over and punch you in the face, it's assault and battery. I put my hands on you. All right. And y'all have heard of things like assault with a deadly weapon, assault with the intent to do great bodily harm, things like that. Those are caveats. Assault, I've hurt you or I've threatened to hurt you. Battery, I put my hands on you when you didn't want me to. And that can be sexual. I grabbed your butt. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the next category of misdemeanors. Come back at, it's a couple minutes till. Come back at 11:15. Okay. So misdemeanors include things like minor offenses like traffic violations, stuff like that. Y'all, this chair is so freaking comfortable, man. I feel like, ooh, yeah. I feel important because my chair is comfortable, cushy. Yeah. All right. So anyway, minor offenses, traffic violations, that kind of stuff. And you young people gonna figure it out one day. That speeding is just not worth it. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm 57 years old. How many speeding tickets y'all think I've had in my career, in my life? And I've paid my last $400 speeding ticket, y'all. I'm just not doing it anymore. It's not worth it, man. So I'm not going to get there any faster. So just take your time, y'all. Speeding tickets are just not worth it. Okay. Now that my wife's gone, she came in for a few minutes. She had to go back to work. So now she's gone. I get to tell y'all about the time my wife called me at work and told me, babe, I'm being arrested. I said, stop, man. I got class, babe, but for real now. No, really, I'm being arrested. I said, well, where are you calling from? From the police car. This woman's sitting in the back of the police car on the phone. I don't know about y'all, but last time I was in a police car, I wasn't on no damn phone. I was back there like this, trying to squeeze into that little space. There ain't no room in the back of a police car. I'm like, oh man, really? You know, but she in the back of a police car on the phone. I'm being arrested. Okay, what happened? When we lived here back in the 1980s, checks were big back then. Everybody wrote checks for everything. And that's what she was doing. She was writing a $5 check here and $7 check there. And I told her, babe, you shouldn't be doing that, man. Oh, I'll keep I keep track of everything. Mm-hmm. So we went to Greece for 3 years, came back. She went down to get her driver's license renewed, and they arrested her ass. She had a warrant for a bounced check. The check was for $22. She claimed that she never got notified about it or anything, but the fine to get her butt out of jail was $1,200 for a $22 check. So I had to go down and post her, pay her fine and all that. And I asked the lady, so she gonna be released now? Well, yeah, it'll take 11 hours or so to process. Really? Y'all know the place I'm talking about, downtown, the courthouse, that little gray door on the side of the building over there. Yeah, I'm up in there. And they said, well, it'll be 11 hours or so. I said, all right, well, I'll go home. She can call me when she get out. So I go back down to pick her up. It's nighttime. And building, the whole parking lot's empty, and there's my wife leaning against the wall by that great door. I pull up, she starts walking towards the car, y'all, and I swear it looked like she was walking the yard or something. Like she's a hardened criminal walking over to the car, like got the little swagger and all that. Gets in the car, says, so what happened? Oh, it was interesting. I ain't never picked somebody up from jail. They talking about it was interesting. And then she started talking about, and my one friend said, your friend, oh, you made friends. See, that's my wife. That's just how she rolled, man. So she made friends in jail. And my one friend said that, they got to take everybody over to the jail at midnight. So if they didn't get me out in time, that she would look out for me if we had to go to the jail. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet she's going to look out for you. You was going to be doing her toenails. I'll look out for you. And then I said, she's like, well, yeah, she was gay, but it wasn't like that. Mm-hmm. You was going to be her bitch. You know damn well you was. She going to take care of you if we have to go over to the jail. Anyway, so, yeah, my wife's been arrested, poor thing. The only first time ever in her life she got arrested for something. So anyway, minor offenses like traffic violations. All right, now, we would be amiss if we didn't talk a little bit about criminal investigations. In other words, how the deck is stacked against you. First of all, the people who bring charges against you, There are their names right there. If you commit a crime against the United States, like treason, it'll be United States Attorney. If you commit crime against the state, like picking those blue flowers, it'll be the state's attorney. Okay. My son, y'all, they went out to the schoolyard one day and there was some of those blue flowers. What are they? The blue bonnets or whatever, growing along the fence. So he walked over and picked some to give to his teacher. He was just a little kid. And so we go over there to pick him up from school that day, and she's going to pull me to the side. Timothy broke state law today because he picked some of those blue flowers. I said, well, call the damn police if you want. Are you kidding me? Like the damn state's attorney is going to bring charges against my 4-year-old son for picking blue flowers. You better figure out what freaking world you're living in, lady. You're getting on my nerves with that shit. He broke the state law. Lady, get out of my face. We got those blue flowers growing right over there in the corner of the yard. I'll go pick them if I want to. Whatever. And y'all get on my damn nerves on the highway too. Gonna stop your car and go sit in the midst of the blue flower. How many of y'all done that? Raise your
Mr.
hand.
Mahone,
Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but
Huh?
I have to take this call from the hospital.
Okay. Do your thing. How
Okay.
many of y'all have done that? Gone out on the highway and sat amongst the blue flowers to take your pictures and all that, blocking traffic and carrying on. Anyway, y'all in Texas and the blue flowers get on my nerves. All right, so anyway, and then if you commit a crime in the district, it's the district attorney, the DA. And there are criminal investigators who work for these people. We call them detectives. They go out and they find evidence to support whatever crime, charging you with a crime. All right, so they're going to progress under the rules of evidence. They're going to collect physical evidence about you, things that you left at the scene, DNA, the smoking gun, your driver's license. It's actually happened, y'all. People have committed crimes and dropped their identification there at the scene of the crime by accident. So physical evidence, the stuff that says, yeah, you were there and you probably did this. Eyewitnesses, believe it or not, eyewitnesses are the least reliable evidence they can collect upon you. They've got to have 3 or 4 people who actually saw you do this. One person, a good lawyer, can have that shit thrown out real easy. Okay, you're the only person that saw this. Okay, we just start with the idea of, do you wear glasses? Was it dark outside? Have you ever seen the person before? And how are you picking them out now when you saw them 6 months ago? Most of us can't even remember where the hell we were 6 months ago, but you remember this person from 6 months ago. So eyewitnesses are the least reliable form of evidence. Confessions, believe it or not, you confess to something, that's not necessarily the nail in your coffin. Confessions get thrown out all the time because people say things like, the district attorney told me that if I confess to this crime, they'll make sure that I only get 2 years. And 2 years is better than facing 25 years. If you don't confess, we're going to throw the book at you and you're going to do 25 years in jail. If you just say you did it, then we'll make sure you're out in 2 years. And a lawyer can have that confession thrown out. You were coerced. In other words, they made a deal with you. Confess and you get this. Your lawyer talk to you afterward and say, man, that was a stupid thing to do. We're going to talk to the judge, and we're going to have that thrown out. So confessions are not necessarily the nail in your coffin either. Circumstantial evidence. This is stuff that suggests you did it, but there's no smoking gun there. For example, person turns up dead. 3 days ago, somebody at work heard you threaten the person. Now the person's dead. Circumstantial. Plus, you don't have an alibi. You were at home watching TV by yourself when they were killed. Lack of an alibi. Take those 2 things together, and they could have a case. There's no smoking gun there, but there's enough to suggest you might have done this. circumstantial evidence. And then the rules of evidence, there are specific rules to how they gather this evidence. There was an instance at the building at work that involved me. There were two ladies who were there to see the eye clinic down on the first floor. They were in the ladies' bathroom, and a man walked in. And one of the ladies said, "Excuse me, this is the ladies' room." And he turned around and walked out. Now, it sounded to me like somebody walked in the wrong bathroom. How many of y'all have done that before? I have. Over at Fiesta, Texas. Made a wrong turn, walked right into the women's bathroom. Went, "Ooh, shit, I'm in the wrong one." And turned and walked out. That's what it sounds like to me. Somebody walked in the wrong bathroom. But those ladies went back to the eye clinic, and they told the lady at the front desk that a man just walked in the ladies' room. And the lady at the front desk decided that there was a pervert loose in the building. So she called the security people. The security people came over, and they pulled the video camera footage from the first floor. And the lady said that he was a Hispanic looking male, had black scrubs, and had facial hair. So they pulled the video camera from the hallway, and there I was in my blue scrubs, walking down the hallway, right past that bathroom. And they decided that I was the pervert that had walked into the bathroom. So they then called upstairs to my boss and told my boss that I was a pervert that just walked in the ladies' bathroom. Now, my boss came down and got me, Sandy, and then the lady wasn't Miss Paz back then, it was Miss Yu. Sandy and Miss Yu and the human resources lady, they all called me in the office and told me what was going on. Now, it was funny to us, all of us. They know me, and they know I'm not a damn pervert. But now I started to get just a little bit ticked off. Okay. Because first of all, who are you, Mr. Security Guard, to gather evidence? You don't know the damn rules of evidence. So you're messing with the wrong person today, man. Who are you to gather evidence? Go looking at security footage and shit like that. You better go and secure the cars in the parking lot, what you're paid to do. You're not paid to do a criminal investigation. You don't have the experience or the training or the schooling. Well, we showed a photo lineup to the ladies. What they did was they printed a still picture of me from the video camera, from the video footage, and they walked down and they showed that to those two ladies. One picture does not make a photo lineup. You see what I mean? You don't know the rules for gathering evidence. Who the hell do you think you are? Okay. Y'all seen them do it on TV, right? First 48. About 8 pictures of all people who look similar. Now, if the person says it was a black man, you can't show them 3 pictures of black men and 7 pictures of white men and ask them to pick it out. You can't do it that way. If they say the person had dreadlocks, you've got to have 8 pictures of black men with dreadlocks in that lineup. You can't just throw pictures together. And you notice too, it is not the actual investigator of that case that shows them the lineup. They get a different cop to do it. These are all rules of gathering evidence and rules for doing a photo lineup. They showed these ladies one picture and said, "Is this him?" And they said, "Yeah, it looks like him." Remember, people want to be helpful too. If they have a person in authority that shows them a picture of somebody, it's already telling them that we suspect this might be the person. So they're trying to be helpful. Yeah, it does look like him. What happened to the facial hair? I've never had facial hair. Not since I was 18 years old. What happened to the black scrubs? I was wearing blue scrubs that day. These ladies were trying to be helpful. Yeah, it does look a little bit like him. And there you go. They called my boss. Now, if it had been a scenario where they would have fired me, oh, I'd have sued their ass. You can bet on that. But my boss is looking and said, "Mahone, this is ridiculous. We know, but we're just trying to let you know what's going on right now." So anyway, that shit was dropped. Matter of fact, it went a little bit further, and the owner of the company got involved. Miss Martin, the owner of the school, got involved and shut that shit down fast. So anyway, to gather evidence, you got to know the rules of evidence. You're a security guard. You don't collect evidence. If you thought a crime has been committed in this building, you call the police. You don't call my boss. You don't go looking at video footage and then showing that to witnesses. Matter of fact, if it had been me and I had been a pervert, guess what would have happened? All that shit would have been thrown out because this idiot got involved, thinking he's some type of investigator. Watched NCIS last night, so he think he knows what the hell he's doing. So anyway, he actually tainted the evidence, tainted the witnesses, and any lawyer would have had it thrown out immediately had somebody tried to take it to court. As a matter of fact, the district attorney would have said, not even close. We have no chance here. This person has tainted everything. So the rules of evidence, there are specific rules for gathering evidence, and they're supposed to follow those rules. Do they always? No, of course not. And that's the flaw in the system. If I'm an investigator and I think you did it, shit. If I'm convinced you did it, it may be just a matter of, well, I know he did it, but I can't find the evidence. But I know he did it. Therefore, I might manufacture something or overlook something that I know goes against me in court. In other words, somebody who says they saw me down at the mall instead of at the crime scene, they're going to overlook that because they know I did it. So that's one of the flaws is in these investigators. Once they convince themselves you've done it, they're not going to stop until they prove you did, even if it requires them to do something outside the law, because I know you did it and I'm not going to let you get away with it. All right, charges are filed by the people that we listed up there, the district attorney, the state's attorney, and then the United States attorney. A grand jury, y'all may have heard that term before. A grand jury is like a practice run for the prosecutor. It's a chance for me to show my evidence to 35 people, and they get to decide whether I have enough evidence to call you to trial or not. So it's a practice run. If these people think I have enough evidence to convict you of something, then chances are it'll be a good court case for me. So they get to do a grand jury. Now, the unfair part here is that if you're called to testify before the grand jury, you cannot have your lawyer there with you. That's the bad part. You can be called to testify without legal representation, and that's screwed up. The plea bargain, or that's what they might, when you might hear they're sending down a grand jury indictment. These 35 people said, yeah, they should go to trial for this. That's an indictment by the grand jury. A plea bargain, it's a deal. Tell on your homies, and we'll charge you with manslaughter instead of murder. We charge you with murder, makes you eligible for the death penalty. Tell on your homies, we'll take the death penalty off the table, and you'll do 25 to life. That's a plea bargain. Or tell on your homies, and we won't charge you with anything, and you'll walk out clean. A judge trial versus a jury trial. You have a right to a jury trial, but you can also refuse that right and go strictly with a judge trial, also called a bench trial, where the judge is both the jury and the determining your fate, your consequences. Now, if you ever go to court, you're probably going to want a jury trial, especially if most of the evidence is circumstantial. You want to go with a jury trial because the criteria for finding you guilty are different between these two. The jury needs to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And if all they have is a bunch of circumstantial evidence, it's easy to raise a reasonable doubt amongst these people. But the judge can find you guilty based on preponderance of evidence. If there's enough circumstantial evidence, the judge can find you guilty on that. So they have different criteria for delivering a guilty verdict. So you usually want to go with a jury trial versus a judge trial, a bench trial. All right. Then you have your judge. What does it take to be elected to judge? You have to win the election. Do you have to be a lawyer? No. I know a lady who was a judge, and she wasn't a lawyer. She was elected judge in some little small town where nobody else ran. She ran by herself. She was elected judge. And that's the person who gets to sit up there and determine your consequences, how long you go to jail and so on. No, somebody who had no legal background whatsoever. She just got elected. The prosecutor, they're going to work for the district attorney. The defense attorney works for you. And then the jury is selected from the community. How many of y'all have had jury duty before? Did you get selected for a jury? I've never been selected for a jury, y'all. I would like to, just once, to say, you know, this is what it's like. You go down to that little room down there, big room, and you sit in there all day, and they come out and they call numbers. If your number's called, you've been selected for a jury. My number's never been called. Just be my luck, I get some, you know, deadbeat dad trial or something like that. I want a good murder or, you know, Michael Jackson trial or what the hell is his name? I don't even listen to his music. R. Kelly. I want to be selected for the R. Kelly jury. And by the way, that is a brilliant lawyer he has. They still haven't gone to trial on that. They keep pushing it back and pushing it back, and the lawyer keeps coming up with reasons to push the trial back. Why is that so brilliant? By the time he go to jail or go to court, nobody's going to give a damn anymore. People have stopped looking at the video. People have stopped wondering whether it's him. People just don't care anymore. And the further you push it back, the less people are going to care. So there's a good chance he'll walk away. Because nobody cares by the time they go to trial on it. So that is, boom, the trial process and them going through, working back and forth. Remember, this is not whether or not you're guilty. What this is a pissing contest between this person and that person. And the judge is there to referee that. That's all. They really don't care whether you did this or not. All they care about is who wins. Do I walk out of here with a win or a loss? And they do it just like that, just like football teams. Yeah. Oh, there's another loss. Oh, look, win, 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 win. This person wins 70% of their cases. That's what it's all about. It's not about whether you did it. It's about who wins and who loses. Who gets that win and who gets the loss. Because it's a pissing contest between those two. A term that you should know, having to do with court cases. The term is pronounced stare decisis. It's Latin, and what it means is let the previous decision stand. In other words, it's already been decided, therefore, we should decide in the same way. I'll give you an example. Yordell kills her sister for a bottle of water. As a result, she gets 25 to life. Okay, that's been decided. 5 years later, Dee Dee kills her cousin over a glass of Kool-Aid. See, it's similar, not exactly the same, but real similar. And since the other case was 25 to life, then Dee Dee should get 25 to life. That's already been decided. It's a precedent. Let this previous decision stand. It's already been decided in court that you kill somebody over a beverage, you get 25 to life. Somebody else comes along and kills somebody over a beverage, they get 25 to life. It's a precedent. It's already been decided. So let the previous decision stand. And you might hear it in TV dramas, or if you've ever been in a courtroom, where the lawyer might say, Your Honor, I want to refer to the precedent of Mahone versus the state of Texas, in which it was decided that killing a person over a beverage was an appropriate punishment, was 25 to life. So know that term, stare decisis, let the previous decision stand. And they might be using that against you. A nurse in Dallas overdosed a person with tramadol, and she was charged with manslaughter, got 15 years. You're a medical assistant in San Antonio. You overdose a patient on Toradol. You're probably going to get those same 15 years. It's been decided. Let the previous decision stand. Okay, now in this whole court process, what types of things that are not part of the court proceedings will have an impact on the court proceedings, like the court of public opinion, media influence. Look at these two pictures. They're both pictures of O.J. Simpson, and they stem from the same picture. This was the mug shot when they arrested him. Why do they look so different? Why is this one so dark?
Shaded.
And this one like this? This Newsweek and Time, two leading magazines in the United States. Why do they look so different?
I think it was to make him look more evil.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. This person who was the art director for this magazine finally admitted that the publisher came and
So they already judged what he buys.
pressured him to adjust that picture like that, to make him look more evil or ominous. Why would they do that? The media is supposed to report the news, not try to influence it. But there you go. Now, in this same trial, or in this same issue, I was at work one day. I really couldn't give a damn about the O.J. Simpson case, to tell you the truth. I had other things going on in my life. Who cares? And I promise you this, if it had been a white man killing a white woman, or a black man killing a black woman, nobody would have gave a damn. It was the media that blew this up into what it was. Okay, now, there was this lady, and she just kept talking. She's a black lady. Yeah, he did it. You know he did it. You know damn well he killed them people. And I finally just had to ask, how could you be so sure about that? And her answer was, look at him. That's how she know he did it. Look at him. I'm glad she's not on my damn jury. Look at him. That's your justification for accusing somebody of murder because they look like a murderer?
If you look at the movie, and when he was, found not guilty, it was like the black people were like, yeah, and the white people were like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like,
who turned it into a black and white thing?
The media.
The media. And let me touch on that. I was in my office when they announced the OJ verdict. And I heard all this screaming out there in the damn waiting room. I got up and I walked out there to see what was going on. Everybody, the technicians and all the patients that day were standing around the TV while they announced the OJ verdict. And you're right. Black folks were cheering. White folks were mad. The media did that. They turned it into a black and white thing. So the media influence, guys, you do not want to be in these people's spotlight. You will look guilty. I'm sorry. They have the thing they call the perp walk. Have y'all heard them use that term on NCIS or anything? Yeah, where they walk you out in front of the cameras on purpose because they know once they finish taking them pictures, you're going to look guilty. There is no way to do a perp walk and not look guilty. It's not possible. So they do that on purpose. Even at the beginning, let's get it on, get the perp walk done.
Sir, how come the government doesn't put a limitations on how media puts things out there and how they word things? Because I mean, they're always, I mean, from this is my opinion, they're always using the race card.
Mm-hmm.
How come they don't put a stop to that or limit them?
It's part of your right to speech and your right to knowledge,
The First
to
Amendment.
know how. Hmm.
The First
Well, I
Amendment.
understand all that, but I mean, it's
That's why they can't put
it's
limitations.
controversial, you know. They're putting people against other people, you know, including the medical field does the same thing.
Yeah, they do. And they do it for ratings. That's why they do it. They do it for ratings. But they're ruining people's lives. They're stirring up shit. They will go down, and if there is a the George Floyd scenario, is that his first name? George, whatever. But anyway, the whole Floyd scenario, they're blowing that way up. Don't get me wrong, y'all. Yes, that man did kneel on the man's neck until he died. Okay. But Floyd didn't make it any easier on him either, did he? Refused to get out of his car, refused to get into the police car, wrestling with the people and . Don't get me wrong now. The police were way out of line. But so is Floyd, if you look at the whole video, in my opinion. Remember what I told y'all. Don't be pissing with them people. If they say get out your car, you better get out your damn car. The deck is stacked against you. And to think you're going to sit there and argue with them? No. But the police, or the media, do they show a lot of those video parts? No. They show what part? Kneeling on the man's neck until he died. So they're stirring up stuff, and they do it on purpose. And if they get a good little story and they can get a little riot started based on it, how many stories they got now for the next 2 weeks? They got all the rioting stories to cover and . So it's all about them and their ratings. Okay. But that's why, because they're going to immediately jump behind that freedom of press badge. I got freedom of press. I can say whatever the hell I want to say. Now, if you can prove them wrong, then yeah, you can sue them. But the damage is already done. So media influence in the OJ trial, it was obvious and it was ridiculous. Political influence. Y'all don't know who this young lady is. She died in the 1970s. Her name is Martha Moxley. She was 16 years old. She was killed on Halloween night. They found her body the next morning underneath a tree in her front yard. Her clothes were pulled down to her ankles, but she wasn't raped. She was beat to death with a golf club. And the person that beat her, the golf club broke, so they stabbed her with the broken end several times. This was some pretty heinous shit to do to a 16-year-old girl. Beat her with a golf club until the golf club breaks, and then stab her with the broken end several times. Okay. This happened in a place where, this is the best way to describe this. Did y'all know that if you win $100 million in the lottery, you are a multi-millionaire? There are places in the country that you still could not live because those people there are rich, but they're what you call old money. They've been rich for generations of their family. And they ain't gonna let no lottery winner come moving up in here. I don't care how much money they got. That's how uppity these people are. And they lived in a place like that. It wasn't Martha's Vineyard, but it was a place really similar to that. And nobody from us could have done this. This had to be an outsider. So they started looking at groundskeepers and chauffeurs and people like that, because none of us could have done this. Okay. And they couldn't find any suspects. Even though the last person she was seen with was, they were leaving they was right after a Halloween party they'd gathered for. The other kids were walking away. They turned around and they saw Michael Skakel or excuse me, Tommy Skakel. Pushed Martha down on the ground as they were walking away. The last person to be seen with her alive. They questioned Tommy Skakel, who lived right next door to Martha, by the way, and he said, well, that's not what happened. We stood outside, we talked for a few minutes, and then I went in the house to study for a test. They contacted the teachers from his school. He had no test scheduled for that week or whatever. So anyway, that's okay, because Tommy Skakel, he's one of us. There's no way one of us did this. So they didn't investigate him any further. His brother, Michael Skakel, said that I left the party. I went in the car with my cousins while we drove one of my other cousins home. So I wasn't even there. Okay. Now, why would they question the Skakels in the first place? Tommy was the last one to be seen with her. And the golf clubs, the only family in the neighborhood that owned that brand of golf club was the Skakels. And they lived right next door to her. Circumstantial evidence. But none of us did this. So they weren't investigated any further. All right. About 5 years later, a new district attorney was hired in that district and decided to reopen the Martha Moxley case and put in the newspaper that they're going to be using this new evidence called DNA. This was the 70s. Remember, nobody really knew how this stuff worked yet, but they knew that if they find your DNA at a crime scene, it's like finding fingerprints. It's you. As soon as that announcement was made, they're going to use DNA. Both Skakel brothers changed their stories immediately. Tommy Skakel said, I did not go in the house to study for a test. Martha and I went over to her house and we stood underneath the tree, the same tree where her body was found. We stood underneath the tree and we masturbated together. How weird is that shit? We went over to her house, we stood under the tree, and we masturbated together. Okay, 2 kids, Okay. Michael Skakel said, I did not go in the car with my cousins. Instead, I went over to Martha's house. I climbed that tree, the very same tree she was found dead under. And I threw rocks at her window. And when she didn't come to the window, I masturbated and went home. How weird is that shit? Both of them changed their stories to explain why their semen would be found under that tree, not understanding that after 5 years they wouldn't find anything. They didn't know how this stuff worked very well back then. So both of them changed their stories to explain why their semen would be under that tree.
Hey, sir, they just wanted to get their DNA and the crime scene before they got questioned about it?
Now they wanted to explain that if you did find any of Michael or Tommy's semen under that tree, they're trying to explain why it would be there.
Basically, they tricked them into confessing that they were with her and at the scene of the crime when they denied it entirely in the beginning.
Uh-huh. And are you ready for this? Neither one of them was investigated any further because they're one of us. There's no way they did this.
Another case or a money talks.
No, this isn't money. This isn't about money. Even though they were all rich, this isn't about money.
This was about entitlement and judgment.
You
That's
see,
what this was about, spoiled kids.
Michael and Tommy Skakel, their mother was the sister of John F. Kennedy. President John F. Kennedy, the one that was assassinated, the one whose brother was the attorney general, the one whose father, their grandfather, was a 30-year senator. Remember him? I said Ted Kennedy was a senator for 30 years. That was their grandfather. That's why they weren't investigated. 30 years later, they convicted Michael Skakel of Martha's murder. Let me tell you what happened. This didn't come out, but I'll tell you what happened. Michael and Martha went to Martha's house, was making out under the tree. Or Tommy and Martha were making out under the tree. Michael came along, got jealous, and killed her. And Michael, or Tommy, was covering up for his brother. I bet you Michael Skakel beat her to death because he was jealous that she was with her brother, that she was with his brother. And then Tommy was helping to cover it up. I'll bet you that's what happened. Because you don't beat somebody like that unless you're jealous. That's an act of rage. And I'd even probably go far enough to say that they beat the girl to death and then masturbated. They were some weird people. And Michael Skakel was finally convicted of her murder 30 years later. Why 30 years later? JFK was dead. Robert Kennedy was dead. The grandfather was no longer a senator. They didn't have that kind of political influence anymore. And the new district attorney wasn't under any type of pressure from them and was able to convict that boy of that murder 30 years later. So that's political influence. If you got the political clout, you're probably not going to suffer. Do you think rich people get away with crimes? Rich people don't get convicted as often. Michael Jackson. I told y'all that the one kid that said Michael Jackson molested me was not there for the trial. He was in Costa Rica. They had a deposition from the kid. You and I would be in jail right now. But guess what Michael Jackson had? Enough money to send a private investigator to Costa Rica to interview the kid again. And guess what the kid did? Changed the statement. Do you have enough money to send a private investigator to Costa Rica and get another deposition from this kid? No. That's why I say we would be in jail right now. Michael Jackson showed up to court in pajamas. The judge would have thrown your ass under the jail. You go walking up in there in pajamas. When we do it, it's contempt of court. When Michael Jackson does it, it is, what do they call those people? Rich people, they don't call them crazy, they call them eccentric. When Michael Jackson did it, it was eccentric. When we do it, it's disrespect for the court. That man went to court in pajamas, and the judge did nothing about it. That's fame. So Michael Jackson had the fame and the money. He was not going to jail. He was not going to be convicted of anything. And the prosecutor in the Michael Jackson trial set it out just perfectly, exactly what it is. And I don't believe he said it like this. He said, we don't like it when a defendant comes into court with all the resources that we have. In other words, I've got hundreds of detectives working for me. I've got 6 lawyers sitting over here on my side. We want to see you walk in with your corner-pointed lawyer. We don't want to see you walk in with, I don't even know if y'all know who this person is. F. Lee Bailey. This dude writes law books. He's a Harvard lawyer. He teaches at Harvard Law School. He writes law books for students. We don't want to see you walk in with this person on your side. And definitely not this person plus Johnny Cochran, Kardashian. These were Michael Jackson's lawyers. Now imagine you are a public attorney working for the district attorney's office, and you look across the room and these three people are sitting over there opposing you. There is no freaking way you're going to win that case. So those were Michael Jackson's lawyers: F. Lee Bailey, Johnny Cochran, who was the OJ lawyer, and Kardashian. You're not going to win. We don't want to see people come in with these type of resources. So we don't want to see Tupac, Snoop Dogg, Michael Jackson, and whoever walking in with all the money and resources that we have. That guy actually said that. We want the deck stacked against you. And that's what I'm saying. The deck is stacked against you because you are not going to have those lawyers. You're going to have some court-appointed lawyer who has 35 other cases, and all they want to do is plea bargain out of this. They don't want to prove you're guilty or innocent. They just want to get your case off their desk. All right. Investigator influence. Anybody know who this young lady is? Y'all might know her. JonBenet Ramsey. She was one of those young girls that was in all the beauty pageants and that type of stuff. The parents woke up one morning, they couldn't find her in the house. So they went down the kitchen and there was a ransom note on the kitchen table that said, "We have your daughter. We will contact you for payments and da, 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 da. Do not contact the police, blah, 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 blah." It was a pretty detailed note. So they called the police. Police showed up at the house and went to search the house to look for evidence of somebody that might have left behind who kidnapped this little girl. They went down to the basement. They opened the basement door. There was a little girl's body right there. In other words, they couldn't even open the door because a little girl's body was blocking the door. All right. And they decided immediately that the parents had done something wrong. Not based on evidence, but just based on look at them. These rich people or whatever, they came to the conclusion that these people had killed this little girl. And they weren't going to stop until they proved it. There was no DNA or anything found on the little girl's body. They said that that was not important, the investigators. Now, if they had found DNA, oh yeah, that would have been the smoking gun. But since they didn't find any, it wasn't important. The window where the little girl's body was found, the room, they said there was no way that somebody could have got in and out that window. The Ramseys hired a private investigator, and he filmed his first trip to the house. Walking up to the house, this is the house right here, show me the window. This is the window right here. He got through that window without even getting his suit dirty. But the police said nobody could fit through that window, and they wouldn't back off of that. They kept it in their report. Nobody could have gotten in through that window, even though the Ramseys had video proof of a man opening the window and climbing in. Now, can't do that. They would not stop. And as a result, the Ramseys, their life was ruined. She died, the mother died during the whole process thing. The father ended up living in a trailer home. They lost everything defending themselves. And in 2015, the parents were exonerated of any wrongdoing in her disappearance or in her death. But the investigators decided that they were guilty and ended up ruining their life, rather than out there looking for the people who did do it. How dumb is it to claim that your kid was kidnapped and then hide the body in the basement of the house? That's pretty damn dumb. And they say, well, the Ramseys, they panicked. They weren't thinking straight. Well, define your definition of panic, because that was a pretty detailed ransom note. So if it happened the way you did, they killed the little girl by accident or something, they still had enough faculty to sit down and write a pretty decent ransom note. Which, by the way, the handwriting people said that nobody who lived in that house wrote that note. based on the handwriting samples. But that's not important. So anyway, the investigators decided that she had done this, that the family had done this. And as a result, they would not stop. And that family was ruined. And then in 2015, they got a sorry. Sorry, guess y'all didn't do it. But their lives were ruined by then. All right, so that's a little bit of how things are influenced out there in the courts. It's not about whether or not you did it, guys. It's about this game that happens out there with everybody trying to influence whether or not you did this, including the investigators. All right, so our next source of law is statutory law. And this is kind of misunderstood. All laws are statutory. In other words, when we say statutory law, what we're saying is the definition of the law. It's written in statutes. Murder is this based on what the law says. Premeditation, ... So all laws are statutory. So when somebody says statutory law, what they're saying is we're taking what you've done and we're applying the textbook definition of the law to it. For example, statutory rape. You see, rape says that sexual encounter with someone forcibly or somebody who cannot enter a contract. A child can't enter a contract. We don't let them buy houses. We don't let 10-year-olds buy cars. They can't enter contracts like that. And since they can't enter that contract, they can't enter any other contract. Thereby, it is statutory. You see, what they did doesn't fit the textbook definition of rape. It fits the textbook definition of who can enter a contract. And therefore, it is statutory. We don't let a 10-year-old buy a house. Therefore, we don't let them enter sexual relationships either. So any 10-year-old who enters a sexual relationship is a statutory rape.
Mr. Mahone, I don't
Hello.
mean to interrupt, but I
Yes.
need to go. I said, I don't mean to interrupt, but I need to go check I'm baking, so I'll have to step back out for a
Okay.
minute.
All right. So, written and established by enactments expressing the will of the legislature. That is the term or definition of statutory. So all laws are statutory. But what we're saying is that what you did doesn't fit the definition of rape, but it fits the definition of contract law. So it is statutory because it fits that definition, not this one. So when we say statutory rape, that's what we're saying. That it doesn't fit the definition of rape, but it violates some other statute out there. In this case, contractual law. Minors can't enter contracts. And since a minor can't enter a contract, then they can't enter a sexual relationship. So even if it's consensual, it's still statutory rape. We also have statutes of limitations saying that you have to be brought to trial or at least charged with a crime within a certain period of time of committing that crime. And a lot of the statutes are 7 years. That's the statute of limitations on bank robbery. So if you rob a bank, you go to Costa Rica for 7 years, can you come back to the United States? Yep. Yep. They had 7 years to charge you. They didn't do it, so you can come back to the United States. Can you come back to the United States and brag about robbing that bank? Sure you can. You're not going to be charged with it. But I'll promise you the bank will probably sue you. They're going to find a way, y'all. Don't think you're going to be running back. Oh, the statute of limitations have run out. I can go back. Now, you better stay your ass in Costa Rica and count your blessings. Because you come back, they will find a way.
So, Mr. Mahone,
Uh-huh.
the statute of limitations, you said it takes 7 years?
For some crimes. They're different for
Okay.
different crimes.
Yeah, because I know you mentioned earlier that to open up, they reopened up a case. So how long does that take? Like, is there any limitations to reopening up a case?
It depends on what the charge or what the crime is. There is no statute limitations for murder. They can charge you with that 30, 40, 50 years later. Like this guy, sign a picture of this guy. This guy, his name was John List. He killed his whole damn family. His wife, his mama, everybody in this picture plus the mother. He murdered them all. He shot the kids as they came in from school. He murdered the mother up in bed and killed the wife in the kitchen. And then stood there at the door as the kid came from school and killed each one of them. He lined all their bodies up in the dining room, I think it was, in sleeping bags. Where'd he go? Right there. Put on classical music and disappeared. And nobody knew where he was. 30 years later, after doing a blurb on America's Most Wanted, somebody called in on this guy and they arrested him. And he was tried and convicted. Now, the thing that's interesting about this, you know how when they want to find somebody that's been missing for a while, they might do that bust of them showing what they might look like today. They did that for America's Most Wanted. And they were telling us, I saw the story behind this. The guy who was the artist who made that bust, they interviewed him. And they said that it was a last minute thing. They decided they wanted a bust of him at the last minute. So I was in a hurry to get it done. And I got it done at just the right, but they were coming in, they were standing there saying, give it to us, give it to us. And as they were walking away with it, he decided at the last minute, wait, by this time, he'll probably be wearing glasses. So he reached over into this box of just various glasses, grabbed a pair, put it on the bust, and they walked out and filmed the part. The glasses that he put on there were exactly the same as the glasses he was wearing. What are the odds of that? And the person that called in said, when I saw the glasses, I knew it was him. So it was the glasses that did it. And it was just a last minute thing. Remember that? What are the odds, man? But anyway, they caught him after 30 years as well. So there is no statute limitations for murder.
Did he ever say why he did it or what it was about?
He did it because he lost his job and he didn't want his family to be poor. Yeah, he didn't want them to suffer the embarrassment of being poor. Yeah. It was okay for him. He just didn't want them to be poor, so he killed them instead. How odd is that?
They put him in a hospital then, right?
Huh?
Did they put him in a mental hospital?
Oh no, they put his ass in jail. You know what? That's just some shit he threw out there, man. I didn't want them to feel guilty about be embarrassed about being poor because he lost his job. All right, so anyway, that is statutory law. And does anybody know the statute of limitations on medical malpractice suits? If you want to sue your doctor for malpractice,
25 years?
what's the statute of limitation?
Is it 25 years?
2 years. You got to file that lawsuit within 2 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Now, can that be changed or can that be extended? Let's say that when you were 20 years old, you had a hysterectomy because the doctor said, you need to have this hysterectomy. Later in life, you decide you're going to go to nursing school. And in nursing school, you look at some stuff and you go, wait a minute. That doctor told me and then did a hysterectomy on me. In other words, you're just now discovering that that person was wrong. And it's 6 years later. Can you sue that doctor for malpractice? Yes. The statute of limitations starts when the crime is discovered. So 6 years later, you discover that that hysterectomy was inappropriate. They shouldn't have done that. You now have 2 years to file charges because you just discovered the crime. And that's how the statute of limitations can be extended. Also, what if the crime was committed by your parents against you when you were a kid? The Boy Scout leader molested you when you were 7. You're 25 years old now. Can you sue for that and file charges? Yes. Okay. It doesn't include crimes that happened when you were too young to file charges or to report the crime. It doesn't include crimes against parents committing against children. Like, y'all remember that guy, Gary, what the hell's his name? The little bitty dude. What you talking about?
Gary Coleman.
Gary Coleman. His family or his parents spent all his money. By the time he was able to take care of his money himself, he was broke. Parents spent every dime. And as a result of that, they have laws now that say if a child is making a certain amount of money, there's going to be a person appointed to them by the state that they live in who will care for their money. Their parents only get a certain amount of their money, a certain percentage of their money. So if your kid becomes a big child actor, there's only a certain percentage of their money that you'll have access to. They'll have a person appointed them by the state who will manage their money for them, an accountant. Yeah. Because of the Gary Coleman case, totally broke. They spent all his money. So anyway, statute of limitations, they have ways to get around that. Remember that the statute of limitations doesn't start until the crime has been discovered. So if the crime isn't discovered until 15 years later, that's when the statute of limitations starts. All right.
Thinking of that in the Bill Cosby case.
The Bill Cosby case, yes, that's why ladies are allowed to go back now and accuse him of doing whatever. Because there are circumstances there that made them not come forward, okay, where they were pressured to not come forward. And by the way, for those of y'all that don't know, Bill Cosby whole scenario, see, I take that shit seriously, y'all. That man, because Bill Cosby for decades has tried to pass himself off as the conscience of Black people. Okay? Black people this, and y'all need to be this, and y'all need to be that. And kick that girl off his TV show because she made a movie showing her breasts and all this mess. He was just boom. And then turns out, as much money as that man had, he couldn't get laid. What kind of loser are you? Him and his wife, they donated hundreds of millions of dollars to colleges. Personal money. That's why he always wore the college sweatshirts on the Cosby Show, because those were given to him as they donated money to all these different colleges. You got all that money and you can't get laid? You got to drug people to get laid? What kind of loser must you be, man? Jeez. Anyway. So he's the one that called Eddie Murphy and told Eddie Murphy that his show was too dirty. You need to clean it up. And Red Fox and all these other people just trying to be the Black conscience, or the conscience of Black people. And turns out his ass was raping women all those years. Yeah, put his ass in jail. Put him under the jail.
Do you think he really raped people? Or do you think it was about the fact that he was finna buy that, what was that, the media station?
Would it be too much of a stretch to think
that
these people were paid off and ... No, it wouldn't be. But too many women coming forward. It's just like R. Kelly. There's just too many women coming forward.
I think he did it because there was a clip where it went back to where he was on a TV show and I don't think no one took it seriously back then. He actually joked about the Spanish fly and what it does and what it's used for. And no one paid attention to that. And then when his trial came up, now that clip is coming forward to the forefront, it's like it shouldn't have been funny when he went on television jokingly saying why he goes look for a Spanish fly and what it's used for it. It shouldn't have been funny then.
You know what carries more weight with me is, do y'all remember when Michael Jackson was being accused and he went on television and told his side of the story? Neither one of those two are talking. Cosby or R. Kelly. Neither one of them are saying anything.
Kelly did say some stuff. And then
Really? Oh yeah, that's right. He did go on that interview, but he totally lost his cool too.
yeah, that's right.
He started yelling and screaming and crying and shit. You're right, he did. But this guy right here, totally silent. Not a single word. I don't know, guys. And there are just too many women coming forward on both of these guys. Have y'all seen that special on HBO, Surviving R. Kelly? Yeah, there's just too many people coming forward. Okay.
Yeah, he spoke out and said they should have convicted him years ago. Like, he was just being like, oh, I'm untouchable. And he kind of was. When his first trial, he was very untouchable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's wrong that his ex-wife got on that movie just because she ain't getting child support anymore and start talking about it.
Yeah, you got to look at stuff like that too. Okay. What's the most motivating this person to come forward and speak up on this as well? Okay. But, anyway, just the video itself, I'm like, dude, really? Are you kidding me? If that is you, I don't care what age the girl is. You're twisted, dude. You got a problem, Holmes. Anyway, so we're going to stop there today. We're going to pick it up with civil law on Monday. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to activate the test for this weekend. You're going to be taking the...
Is that the test that you mentioned in yesterday's class? Because I wasn't in yesterday's class and I was watching it last night. And I was like, oh my God, what test? I don't have an email.
Yeah, that's the one. We're going to
thank
set
you.
it up for Monday evening. Have this done by Monday. What was that? Monday was the 24th. Just in case somebody's working this weekend, and no, we'll do it for Tuesday actually, because I want to still active for Monday. So try to get it done, or get it done by Monday. So if you're working this weekend, you can probably still get it done on Monday. All right. So
are you sending a review or just the video that you sent?
I'll send a review along with the link for the test. All right. So go into here, new message. There's your link. Remember, click on that link. It'll take you in. This is the, I'll just call it Chapter 1 and 2 test. Due by Monday. We'll put due by Tuesday morning. We'll attach the review. Go into files, resources, work 2, bloodborne pathogens, and anyone can view. Okay, so there's your bloodborne pathogens infection control review. Download that. Study it. When you're ready, click on that link, go in and take your test. 727 and 817 class. All right, sent. All right, so you've got your review, you've got your test link or your quizzes link. Go in and get that done before Tuesday morning. All right. Monday, there's nothing else going on. Continue on your homework. Monday, we're going to continue with the law and ethics. We've got a little bit more to talk about in that. And next week, we'll be getting into professional development, looking at personality development, getting along with people. We'll also be doing resume writing, interviews, professional dress, that kind of stuff. What it is to stereotype and, what ethics is, honesty in the workplace, all that kind of stuff, all next week. And the last week is when we'll do the muscles, skeletal, and endocrine system as part of the last week. Also next week, since we won't have any tests next week for any of this stuff, then we're going to go on and test on those root words, prefixes and suffixes, and those abbreviations. And I'll publish those next week. So that's what we'll be testing on next week. So, and then professionalism, since it's going to take us all week, the test probably won't be until next weekend. So that gives us a chance to get those root words, prefix, suffixes, and abbreviations done. So that's how we'll be going next week, continuing with law and ethics, and then getting into our professional development. Make sure you get this test done this weekend. At the latest, get it done by Monday night or Tuesday morning. All right, so any questions before we end for the day?
Yes, Mr. Mahone. I did a quiz last night. I think it was the blood pathogens. I thought that was due already.
No. Yeah, it is due. It was due by today.
Okay.
But we're doing the chapter 1 and 2 test over the weekend. So yeah, the bloodborne pathogens was due by today for everybody except for Karanisha. All right, so what else was I going to write up here? I don't remember now. Somebody asked a question and I forgot.
Will you be sending the review for chapter 1 and 2?
I just did. That's what I just sent.
The review you sent was bloodborne pathogen.
Okay, I attached the wrong review. My bad. Now I see what you're saying. Yeah, I attached the wrong review. I just thought about that. Okay, so I will, let's go on and send this again. I sent the wrong one. Poor me. Okay, so new message, Now I see what y'all saying. I'm being stupid up here. And then 8:16 or 8:17, your chapter 1 and 2. I'm glad y'all caught that. All right, so where we going? Same place, but we're going to files. I'm looking for, no, we're too far. Resources, work 2. We're looking for term comp. Is this the one? No, the other one. 2, so we're looking for intro. Excuse me, just there it is, chapter 1 and 2 review. Give me just a second. All right, so there it is for you, chapter 1 and 2 review. Please make sure you study the right thing before you go in for that test. Anyone can view. All right. Okay, so corrected that mistake. All right. So any other questions?
When did you say the test was for the medical terminology?
They'll be next week. For the root words, prefixes, and suffixes.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, then we'll see y'all Monday at 8 o'clock. Have a good weekend. Stay home if you don't have to be out there in the world, y'all. People are getting sick out there. All right, we'll see y'all on Monday.